In the past week, far away from any illegal mining. I would like to get an explanation for that.
The Defence Force says their role is to support the police and there are structures in place to ensure proper communication channels. It says further deployments in other provinces are expected in the next 2 weeks. Baba Londenza, Eyewitness News.
Suspended head of organised crime Richard Shibiri says he has no knowledge about the Big Five cartel. The group is believed to be made up of crime bosses that run an underworld mafia network which stretches from taxis, mining, private security and extortion. Shibiri has been quizzed at the Madlanga Commission today about his knowledge of this group. Thabiso Koba reports.
Last year, the head of crime intelligence at SAPS, Dumsani Khumalo, testified at the Madlanga Commission about the Big Five. Khumalo said to his knowledge, he believed controversial businessmen Katiso Katie Molefe and Vusimuzi Katz Matlala were part of this group. Today at the Commission, a transcript was shown of a call between the head of organized crime at SAPS, Richard Shibiri, and Witness A, an officer under his unit. In the call, Shibiri refers to a group of five. However, when asked who this group of five he was referring to, Shibiri did not give a straight answer.
That is what I deny. I never talked about a cartel. I said the person arrested, he was involved with a group of five and they have in business interest when we were talking on the phone, and I also testified now.
At the time of the call, Witness A was investigating Katiso Katie Molefe for orchestrating the murder of Vereniging engineer Armand Swartz. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Golden Arrow Bus Services has condemned the torching of one of its buses in Mfuleni in Cape Town. The bus was allegedly set alight by community members during a protest in that area this morning. It's understood that a group of angry residents took to the streets protesting against the deployment of a private security company and the demolition of informal homes on city-owned land. Residents claim the private security officers have been using heavy-handed tactics while trying to maintain order. Golden Arrow Bus Services spokesperson Bronwyn Dakbaya says the bus driver was injured during the attack.
The seriousness of these types of brazen attacks should not be underplayed. Stoning buses and setting them alight is incredibly dangerous and it's never justifiable.
The family of late COPE leader Musiwa Leguata is expected to hold a prayer service today as preparations continue to lay him to rest. A church ceremony will be taking place at the Rose of Lima Catholic Church this afternoon, where his family will continue paying their respects. Leguata passed away at a hospital in Johannesburg last week after battling a long illness. Alfa Ramushwana reports.
The family of late struggle stalwart Musiwa Leguata says no amount of time could ever heal the pain caused by his passing. They say what hurts even more is that for many years, Leguata was not physically present as he was detained for a long period on Robben Island. As the family continues reflecting on his life and legacy, a church service will be held this afternoon as preparations continue for his final farewell. His remains will be collected from the Twilight Funeral Parlor and transported to the Rose of Lima Catholic Church for the family prayer service. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News in Bloemfontein.
And in China, a top economic official is expected to travel to France to hold talks with his U.S. counterpart. The meeting comes less than 3 weeks before U.S. President Donald Trump's summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The U.S. Treasury Department says the talks will be held on Sunday and Monday. The discussions between the world's top two economies come at a difficult time for the global economy. Energy markets have been struggling from the impact of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. Gold is trading at $5,089.50 an ounce. The rand is at 16.82 to the dollar, 22.33 to the pound, 19.27 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $101.27 a barrel.
In Boksburg, heading towards Brakpan, roadwork still causing about a 20-minute delay. This is on the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City. Springs, traffic heavily backed up on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue and Bursley Kempton Park. There's slow-moving traffic on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooi Rivier.
In your sport, Mamelodi Sundowns prepare for Stade Malien Challenge in the CAF Champions League. Arne Slot not concerned about the Premier League's quality following a difficult week for English clubs in the UEFA Champions League. And George Russell leads Mercedes 1-2 in Chinese Grand Prix sprint qualifying.
It's a cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with showers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 21 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, members of Parliament's Committee on Defence say they are disturbed by images of soldiers conducting house searches instead of preventing illegal mining in Gauteng.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
.702 Drive with John Perlman is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. How many of you had ever heard of the Strait of Hormuz before war broke out in and around Iran? Well, for some days now, and likely for many days to come, the eyes of the world are focused on a stretch of water just 167 kilometers long, through which 20% of the globe's oil supply must pass. What's it actually like to navigate and sail a ship through the strait, which at one point only has room for 2 ships to pass? It gets that narrow. We'll give you a first-hand account from Captain Nick Sloan. He joins us from Lloyd's. That's at 4:20. In other stories, high cocoa prices have been putting the chocolate industry under pressure for some time, but are some manufacturers starting to make changes that might fundamentally affect the taste? Food science expert Professor Frederick Tabit joins us with his insights at 4:10. Police make a big breakthrough in the battle against rhino poaching. More on that with Julian Rademeyer at 4:10. He's someone who has followed this scourge in the battle against it for many, many years. And in our weekly feature, A Song, a Book and a Dish, we'll talk to radio legend Stan Katz. That's at 4:20. And speaking of songs, Randall's one song coming your way at 4:10. On the markets, the JSE is down by 0.75%, pushed lower by a 2.3% fall in the resources index. The gold price is doing nicely, up by $31, but the platinum price has fallen sharply, down by 2%. That's reflected in the platinum shares. Implat's weaker by 5.7%, Northam by 4.9%, and Sibanye by 4.5%. Oil price is up sharply today, a spike, of $2.10, with Brent crude currently trading at $99.43 a barrel. That's, $7 up from this time yesterday. That's bad news for the economy. Good news for Sasol, though, up 10% today, and for Thungela, which is up by 3.3%. The rand's trading at 16 rand 78 against the dollar. That's 22 cents weaker than it was 24 hours ago. A euro will cost you 19 rand 26. Our currency weaker against that currency by 16 cents. 22 rand 28 will get you a pound. The rand slipping by 14 cents since this time yesterday. Stephen Critters joins us with all the market news at 4:25. Sport with Tolakele Mganga. I've got a very interesting question to ask you about the PSL. I'll share that with you a little bit later. A question based on history, but also sentimentality. Sounds mysterious, but it isn't really. That's coming up later, as I said. Mbali Dlamini is the latest news headlines. Karabuchali is keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live, and if it's happening in 702 land, we'll bring it to you as soon as we are sure what we're talking about. Of course, you can help there, because first of all, there may be those stories we don't know about. There may be stories that we've kind of got some idea, but we don't have the full picture. Any of those and anything I might have missed, please call us 072 702 1702. That's for your WhatsApp messages, either text or voice. And if you want to phone and have a bit of a chat, 011 883 0702. This is 702 Drive. It's 12 minutes past 3.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
So, plenty for us to talk about, lots of questions that need asking. And of course, amongst the thoughts that we always share with you on 702 Drive are some of the slightly more random things, either based on things we've read, things we've heard, things we've thought about while doing whatever one does when random thoughts pop in your head. And occasionally, things happen to us that prompt a conversation. Now, Rifue Litsua has been producing the show throughout the week, and indeed over many, many months here on 702 Drive. Your day didn't get off to a great start. So tell us the story, then give us a question. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John, and to the rest of the 702 family. What an eventful morning I've had. Okay, so first it started out okay, and then my first appointment was supposed to be at 11, and then it became at 11:30, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, that trickled on, and then I requested an e-hailing driver. Okay, everything was fine. He arrived on time. Beautiful, beautiful. We're doing well. Then the car slows down, and then I'm like, oh, my guy, why are we slowing down? No, sister, let me check there. Let me check. Wait. He says to me in Zulu, please wait a bit. So he's restarting the car, and I'm just minding my own business. I'm sending emails. Then he says, I think I need to run to the garage. Luckily, we were 2 minutes from the garage, so he could have easily run to the garage. So he ran to the garage.
But when he says run, he means run.
No, he ran.
So he's not on tires, he's on tackies.
No, on tackies. He left me in his car, and with this terrible song that kept playing, he looped this terrible song. So I don't know what was going on there. So he ran to the garage. So while I was waiting for him, one of these accident tow trucks comes through, knocks on the door. I open the window. Hi, what's going on? Hi, ma'am, are you okay? Were you in an accident? I'm like, no, this is an Uber. We ran out of petrol, and he's just here. And it took him 20 minutes to come back.
So he obviously set off at a run, because you said the garage was 2 minutes away. But then I don't know if he went round a corner and then maybe changed down into minutes. First.
I timed him. So he comes back. I don't even get an apology. He just fills his tank up, and we continued.
Yeah.
And then he got lost coming here.
Oh, my goodness.
I feel like my anger or my irritation is, that's what happened. And that was one of the worst experiences I've ever had with an e-hailing service.
Yeah, so we'd love to know from you, Ben, what kind of experiences have you had in e-hailing vehicles? I mean, they might have been enormously disruptive, but also, the added layer of the complete disrespect of no apology and actually being gracious and accepting you've made a mistake, which I think is adding insult to injury. Maybe you've had some experiences that were a little rough. Some of them might be a little bit strange, and some you may want to laugh about. How about you, Karabo Charlie? I mean, I don't know how often you're in an e-hailing vehicle, but anything weird happened to you?
Well, I don't know if it's unusual, but also my e-hailing driver stopped at a garage filling station to fill up.
That.
Yes.
So, but I don't know if that's unusual, because you have to fill up before the trip, or
it's
my time here we're dealing with. And then the other weird one, this guy was on his phone with his girlfriend the whole trip.
No way.
And they were like obviously talking and all flirtatious.
Hands free, or?
Obviously it was, I could hear them.
Nothing is obvious, trust me.
Okay, yeah. It was on loudspeaker, so I could hear the whole conversation. They were all lovey-dovey, and for me it was a bit awkward. But
on your time?
On my time, and while he was...
How long was the trip?
I think the trip was like 10 minutes, not that long. So but
no,
then
no time for them to break up, I was thinking if it's maybe 40, there's always a chance of an...
I found it a bit weird though, yeah.
Very strange indeed. So, I mean, I've had a few experiences. The one that comes to mind late at night, fairly late at night, say 10:30, 11, and I'm going from Rosebank home. So the straight way, the only way really to go directly is down Oxford Road. But no, my guy goes into the back roads, so taking himself through Saxonwold. People might know that neighborhood quite well. But the point of the story is he goes through every stop street. So after the first two, I said, sorry, why aren't you stopping at the stop? He says it's dangerous. So I said, no, it's dangerous not to stop. He says, no, it's dangerous. There could be someone waiting there to hijack you or rob you, which is, a point, but far more dangerous to go through the stop street. So yeah, those are some of our experiences. Your tales, please. And I guess let's democratize this and say, hey, e-hailing drivers, if you want to call in and talk about weird passengers, well, that's absolutely fine as well, because we do recognize that the vast majority of you don't mess around with us in the way that we've described. So if you want to talk about how bad we can be in your back seat or front, give us a ring. E-hailing experiences, the strange, the scary, it's up to you. 072-702-1702. It's 18 minutes past 3.
Drive home with John Perlman
On 702, let's walk the talk.
So, Karabo, out on the roads, mix of vehicles, some e-hailing vehicles, lots of people driving their own cars, trucks. What else? Yeah. What's going on? How's it looking?
Well, if you're leaving Boksburg heading towards Brakpan, roadwork still causing about a 20-minute delay on the N17 eastbound between Randall and Carnival City Springs. Traffic is also heavily backed up on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue. Bursley, Kempton Park area, slow-moving traffic on Morafontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooi Rivier. And in Hermanstad, expect some delays on Eskiam Pachele between Vomhagen and the R80. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
We're on the ground and in the air with Thulani Sijo, founder of Take a Pic Drones. What's the flight plan for your connectivity?
The need for stable network connectivity is an absolute must in my field.
And with Telkom Business Fiber and Flexon, Thulani uploads high-res tower inspections and navigates seamlessly on the go. Get Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month and Flexon 4 Pro from 219 Rand per month. Call 10213 or check telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Stop and think. Will you survive the AI revolution or thrive? Regenesis students are thriving. 11 cutting-edge schools, 111 countries, world-class team of 1,111 with one mission, awakening your potential. Choose from law, business, technology, AI, health, economics, entrepreneurship, public management, skills academy, and digital Regenesis, undergraduate, postgraduate, upskilling, customized corporate programs. The question isn't, can you afford to enroll it? Can you afford not to? Enroll now. Regenesis.net. Achieve your dreams.
Gear up for glorious Grand Slam success with Hollywood Bets. Take your tennis passion to new heights and feel every stroke, rally and match point as the drama unfolds at the Australian Open, Roland Garros, Wimbledon and US Open. The biggest stages in tennis have been set as the world's best go head-to-head for ultimate bragging rights. Bet now and make every moment count.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
You can become a victim of a legal problem. Wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702 Drive, it's 21 minutes past 3. Let's go out to Pretoria, to the Bridget Mabandla Justice College, to be precise. A very, very eventful week indeed at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Today, Major General Richard Shibiri, who is a senior officer or senior commanding officer, I think it would be fair to say, in the Organised Crime Division at the South African Police Service, once again having to deal with some difficult questions. Let's welcome then Thabiso Goba, our EWN colleague, who's been watching it closely. Thabiso, very good afternoon to you. I want to step away from the blow-by-blow for a moment and raise this issue with you. You know, there was a point, and I think it might have been yesterday or today, I think it was yesterday, but that's not the most important thing, where Justice Mboyiseli Madlanga spoke about the fact that not for the first time there was a very senior South African Police Service commander saying that they were afraid to mention the name of people clearly involved and having great power in the world of organized crime syndicates. And he expressed his deep misgivings. I want you to talk a little bit about that thread, because it came up again today, a real sense that, certainly with Major General Shibiri, that there are names he's not even prepared to say.
Good afternoon, John. And I do want to say, John, that the official title of Mr. Richard Shibiri is that he's the head of organized crime at SAPS. So he's he's the last person, basically. The only people ahead of him is the Deputy National Commissioner and the National Commissioner. So this is someone who's very senior. And it goes back to your point, John, that yes, the Commission Chairperson, Madlanga, did express a concern that Major General Richard Shibiri was hesitant to name some of the people that he believes, or there is a suspicion that these people are very criminal cartels, and they may have infiltrated the highest levels of law enforcement. And we actually even saw that today, John, where Richard Shibiri said there is a name of a person that he can't name publicly. And this is because he said that this person knows me, and I'm not just scared for my life, but I'm scared for the people around me, my family, my children, and anyone, maybe friends and family, and anyone who's around me. And we even saw, John, there was a recording that played yesterday at the Madlanga Commission. This was a call between Witness A and Richard Shibiri. And we found out today that this call was actually edited. They edited the call to remove the parts where Richard Shibiri names this mysterious person.
Yes.
And Richard Shibiri made the request saying that, I need you to remove this part of the recording because I might get into trouble with that. And there's also this thing, John, of the Big Five. We heard about the Big Five from the head of crime intelligence at SAPS, Mr. Dumsani Khumalo, when he testified, saying that there's a Big Five cartel that runs the criminal syndicates in South Africa. They're involved in taxes, extortion, and all kinds of many other businesses. And Dumsani Khumalo mentioned that this Big Five includes Katiso KT Mulefe and Vusimuzi Katz Matlala. Now, in some correspondence that Richard Shibiri had with Witness A, Richard Shibiri also makes mention of this group, he calls it the group of five in this correspondence that he has with Witness A. And he was asked about this, John, saying that, who is this group of five that you were mentioning? And they spent almost about an hour with, the evidence leaders and the commission just going back and forth, with Richard Shibiri basically just saying that he was talking about another group of five people. He doesn't know what group of five people that Dumsani Khumalo was testifying about. He was talking about another group of five people. It's just a coincidence that, Dumsani Khumalo calls this Big Five the cartel people, and he was also talking about another Big Five. So what that showed, even the commissioners even remarked, saying that it seems like you're reluctant to actually name these people in the Big Five. You know about the Big Five, but you are obviously reluctant to name these people. And I do have to end by saying, John, that there was a commitment by Richard Shibiri to the commission that he is prepared to give them this name or some of the names behind closed doors, because it's not something that he can do in public.
It's an extraordinary situation, and just linked to what you've just been spelling out for us, Tubby. So the other thing that I've found extraordinary, and it's been very front and center with Major General Shibiri, but it's been a theme with some other senior police officers as well. The extent to which, let's just stay with Major General Shibiri, and you highlight correctly that he is responsible for dealing with organized crime. He appears to have at various times had no real knowledge of what kind of things were being investigated in regard to people with whom he had relationships, most notably, but not exclusively, Vusimuzi Katz Matlala. And I mean, the conclusion you can only draw is if he didn't know any of this, that's one kind of problem, i.e. he wasn't doing his job. On the other hand, if he did know but chose to ignore it, well, it's a problem of a different kind. But I found that absolutely extraordinary, and the commissioners seem to find it implausible as well.
Well, I do have to say on that case, John, there was a concession by Mr. Richard Shibiri that he was aware of the allegations by Mr. Matlala. You remember, John, that Mr. Shibiri accepted a 70,000 rand payment from Mr. Matlala. He called this a loan, even though obviously the commissioners disagreed with him. However, he did accept a 70,000 rand payment. And he said that when he accepted this money, at the time that he accepted this money, he thought that Vusumuzi Matlala was an honest businessman. But then there was, again, those WhatsApp chats between him and General Faninkosi. And those WhatsApp chats showed that before he accepted the money, him and Faninkosi, another general that works within the organized crime SAPS unit, they were discussing these allegations against Vusumuzi Matlala. So those allegations around the Tembisa hospital, but also those allegations around the shooting or the attempted shooting of his socialite girlfriend, Teboho Tobejan. So there was concrete proof that he was well aware that Vusumuzi Matlala was a shady character even before he took the money. But but on a general point, John, it does seem like a lot of excuses that Major General Richard Shibiri gave to the commission is that he was unaware of a lot of things. He was unaware that he had to declare the 70,000. He was unaware that Vusumuzi Matlala was a suspected crime cartel boss. He was unaware that he was indirectly trying to bribe police officers. And again, you don't know whether he's sort of weaponizing this incompetence to sort of cover up for the corruption. But what it does come out, it comes out as very unimpressive for a man who, again, is the head of organized crime at SAPS.
Thabiso Mkhoba, thank you. He's just given us the most wonderful phrase, which I shall borrow and use, weaponizing his incompetence. That phrase has got legs, I can tell you, not just in regard to Madlanga. It's 29 minutes past 3.
How's it, Doff? How's it, Savvy? Why are you sitting in your driveway all by your lonesome, Doff?
Selling my car, Sav. I don't trust the internet. I like to wheel and deal my own wheels. That's how you make way more, Sav.
Okay, so where's your car now, Doff?
Potential buyers took it for a test drive.
When did they take it for a test drive, Doff?
3 days ago.
Should have sold it to We Buy Cars, Doff.
Yeah, Savvy.
Don't be Doff, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for a fast, safe sale, geared for you.
You know, South Africa is always on the move. It could be you on your daily commute. It could be you as a taxi driver helping other people make their daily commute. And then there are trucks moving goods across the country, ships arriving in our ports. Behind all of this daily movement, every day, every week, every month, every year, is this question. How do we build a transport system that actually works for the future of our economy, where all these moving parts actually move at least to some degree in harmony? Now, next week, the future of South Africa's transport system will take center stage at the National Transport Conference. It's hosted by the Department of Transport, and it's on from the 16th to the 18th of March at the Gallagher Convention Centre. It's a gathering of decision makers, investors, innovators, together discussing building a sustainable transport system that supports economic growth and job creation. It's going to be a fascinating set of conversations, and we're going to bring you the Clement Manyatela Show live from the conference this Monday. There'll be highlights of the presentations, insights from experts, and there'll be live updates on any announcements or decisions. There's a great panel of speakers, some of them from far away, some from South Africa, including ministers, CEOs, government officials that look at global and regional transport trends, as well as emerging trends that maybe hold out some good opportunities. Smart, green, integrated transport amongst those themes. So don't miss the Clement Manyatela Show live from the National Transport Conference this Monday, brought to you by the Department of Transport on 702.
Mzansi, get ready for millions pouring down this Friday. Powerball and Powerball Plus are bringing a massive 135 million rand in total guaranteed jackpots. Make it rain lots of cash this March by playing Powerball for 93 million rand and Powerball Plus for 42 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app or cell phone banking. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old to play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Right, let's get the very latest eyewitness news. And Bali Tlameni, good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. KZN Premier Taminduli has urged the province's council against crime to come up with strategies to tackle cash in transit heists. Nduli says such crimes have become rife, particularly at some identified hotspots. He was addressing a meeting between local government and various law enforcement agencies today. The meeting was called to discuss the alarming crime rate, with cash heists top of the agenda. Just last week, a cash van was on the N2 highway and was attacked near the cement factory. Nduli says there must be a way to stop these incidents.
It seems as if the criminals have identified that spot as an easy spot to conduct this kind of crime. What are the plans then of government of ensuring that there is a visibility of the police there, or there is a way of securing that area?
In the Western Cape now, residents in Delft say crime has reached crisis levels after 3 taxi operators were shot and killed by unknown gunmen. The incident has renewed calls for the South African National Defence Force to be deployed to help stabilise communities on the Cape Flats. The army is already operating in parts of Johannesburg under Operation Prosper, which aims to strengthen the police's ability to combat crime. But Delft resident Sumaya Prince says communities on the Cape Flats also need urgent support.
There should be a police for here, Delft, all around the Cape Flats, because we need help. It's not just Delft. Beaches Play in Menenberg, Els River, all over. Crime rate is very high.
Prince says it's unfair that soldiers were deployed to Gauteng first when Cape Town has some of the police precincts with the highest murder rates.
Cape Flats has far more crime in Delft around us. I think it's unfair towards us, suffering every day. Innocent people dying, innocent children are dying. I think it's unfair towards us of the Cape Flats.
And Western Cape authorities have put measures in place to mitigate against wildfires as the heatwave continues to hit the province. Hot weather conditions continue to sweep through the Western Cape, with temperatures soaring to 42 degrees in some parts this week. DA spokesperson on Environmental Affairs, Dave Bryant, says significant investments in disaster preparedness were made as part of the province's climate adaptation strategy.
The Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape is closely monitoring the current heatwave and welcomes the Western Cape government's readiness to respond to risks linked to extreme heat.
Bryant says disaster management teams, municipalities and emergency services remain on high alert.
Residents are urged to avoid open flames, use water sparingly and remain in cool or shaded areas where possible.
It's a cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with showers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 21 and 22 degrees.
Brakpan roadworks causing more than a 20-minute delay. This is on the N17 eastbound from Randall to Carnival City. Springs traffic heavily backed up on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue. And in Bursley, Kempton Park, there's also slow-moving traffic on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Moy Rivier.
The top story in EWN, KZN Premier Taminduli has urged the province's council against crime to come up with strategies to tackle cash in transit heists.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays
12 to 1.
On the Midday Report, every day from 12 to 1 p.m, we will bring you breaking news from the scene as it unfolds with newsmakers, reporters, commentators, experts and analysts. We'll explain the stories of the day, give you context for why they are important and what they mean for you. It is everything you need to know in 1 hour. From news to global events, business, sports, science, books and always some good news too. Appointment listening every day at 12 with the Midday Report.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
In this week's thrilling and slightly bone-chilling episode of MasterChef South Africa, the contestants discover that creating an exquisite dish sometimes requires guts and brains, or just about any other part of an animal. That's what happens when Chef Giles Edwards, world-renowned for his no-waste and delicious nose-to-tail cuisine, steps into the MasterChef kitchen as the guest judge. Expect all-out drama, stomach-churning moments, and yet another surprise, a life-saving immunity pin. It's great stuff. It's MasterChef South Africa Season 6, and it continues this Sunday at 6 p.m. only on ETV.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today.
I heard her interviews run smoother because she somehow finds the right people the first time around.
Yeah, it's like she already knows who fits where before they even sit down.
She must have gone for special training, like some Sixth Sense HR certificate.
No, guys, it's SA Youth, the largest youth online recruitment platform. It's fast to post, effortless to use, and effective every time.
Recruit on the portal to potential. sayouth.co.za, powering South Africa's youth workforce.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
John, in Durban, early morning, you know those early morning flights, you're grumpy, and the caffeine has not kicked in yet. I get into, I think there's a Bolt, and the guy was playing calm music. This is like at 6 in the morning. Then he starts chatting. And he tells me about his problems, and I look at the distance. We're like 40 minutes away from my destination. You know, actually, I should put on my status that somebody, please call me. I can't take this conversation anymore. So one person called, pretended to be on a call, and he kept glancing in the mirror, rear view mirror to see if he can start the conversation. Like, no, please call me at 6 in the morning. Aye, man.
Yeah, and what you didn't tell us is, did you manage to solve these problems? Because, you had a good run at it, 35 minutes, apart from a brief interruption. It's interesting. By the way, the question we asked is strange experiences that you may want to laugh about, or if there's serious stuff, please feel free to share that as well. Rifue Litsua, able to, I suppose, make some light of it, but a bad experience today where the Uber she was in, the driver ran out of fuel and she was stranded for 20 minutes, didn't get an apology, which I thought was poor. But your stories, please. Give us a call on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. And in fairness, as I said, when we got into this conversation, e-hailing drivers, Bolt, Uber, whichever you are, if you want to talk about us, the passengers, feel free to do that as well. Let's swap our tales, please. It's 20 minutes to 4.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele, before you jump into your bulletin, I just want to share something posted by Farouk Khan. Now, not everybody knows him, but I'm sure you may have heard of the Stars of Africa Football Academy. Farouk Khan is a youth football coach and talent spotter extraordinaire. But he posted from the 1996-97 Premier League table, out of 18 teams, do you know there are only 4 left? It's a quite extraordinary statistic. I've never thought about it. The ones who are gone were the league winners that year: Manning Rangers, Bushbucks, Hellenic, Jomo Cosmos. When he says gone, I mean they may be playing in lower divisions, but out of the top division. Cape Town Spurs, Supersports, Celtic, Morocco Swallows, Wits, Twatwa Stars, Val Professionals, Real Rovers, Velcom Team, I think they were. Amazulu are still in, Warriors and Witbank Aces. That's alarming, don't you think?
Absolutely, John. And I think that's why a lot of people are so against status buying, because some of those names that you mentioned, they're now teams that may be in the Midday Premiership now, but under different names, because all of a sudden your whole legacy and your whole reputation is gone just because a rich owner wants to be playing in the top flight. The history of this league and all we want to leave behind when we discuss local football will be ruined if we just continue just to sell the teams off to the highest bidder.
Okay, and if you followed a team that is no more, maybe you want to tell us how you feel about that. Did your interest in football dip as a result? You know where to get us. 072-702-1702. One of the teams that was there then and is now Mamelodi Sundowns. They're playing CAF Champions League this weekend, I believe.
Absolutely, John, and it's this evening and they take on Stade Malien in the first leg of their quarterfinal. The Brazilians have revenge on their minds in this competition, having lost in last season's finals to Pyramids, and Grand Gekana has discussed their desire to be the first South African team to win 2 continental titles.
Every season is different. We mustn't take away from how difficult the Champions League is. We as a team would love to finish first. We tried our best. I wouldn't say we were looking to finish second place. We really did try our best. And it just shows the competitiveness of the Champions League. Every game we go into to try win, and it's not obviously possible. But that's the mentality we have, is always to try finish at our best, which is number one.
Arne Slot believes it's premature to say the Premier League is in decline. That follows a difficult week for their representatives in the UEFA Champions League. While Arsenal drew against Bayer Leverkusen, the other 5 teams lost their first leg round of 16 ties after questions were raised about the quality of the English top flight.
Because maybe after next week we will completely have a different conclusion. I think in general it's not helpful for English club not to have a winter break, but I'm not saying now that all these teams have lost because we don't have a winter break. Why? Because you are facing in the last 16 of Europe, you're facing very good teams, and 4 of the 5 teams in the Champions League played away from home. That's usually an advantage to play at home or a disadvantage to play away.
Over to the Six Nations, where Steve Tandy insists that Wales can turn a corner and record their first win in 16 attempts. That's when they take on Italy this weekend. The Azzurri were the last team to lose to the Dragons in this competition back in March 2023 and arrive at the Millennium Stadium on the back of their inaugural win in 33 matches against England. While for Tandy, he's discussed that while he's happy with how they're performing, they now need to learn how to win again.
You can't do it without performance, and against Japan we got to win, and probably that wasn't the performance that we wanted, so no more desperate than us to win, but we can't forget we can't cut corners, and we've got to be focusing on performance, because I think that win will come. That will be the next thing, and again, winning becomes a habit, but also you've got to get consistently to win. You have to build performances, the way you train, the way you see the game, the way you attack the game, and I believe this group are getting closer.
And George Russell took pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix sprint race as he led a Mercedes 1-2 ahead of Kimi Antonelli. World champion Lando Norris was 0.621 seconds behind in third. And joining him in the second row will be Lewis Hamilton. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
3:45, whether you say Brakpan or Brakpan, you are going to be moving slowly through that part of Ekurhuleni. Let's get the very latest traffic news. This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. See just how far you can go with them. Book at flysaa.com. Now, Karabo Charlie.
Yeah, John, if you are traveling from Boksburg heading into Brakpan, there's about a 20-minute delay due to roadworks. This is on the N17 eastbound from Rondebowl to Carnival City in Springs. Traffic also heavily backed up on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue. In Bursley, Kempton Park, there's slow-moving traffic on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooirivier, while in Centurion, accident scene N1 South near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, and this is slowing down traffic. Irene, also traffic sluggish approaching the intersection of Maypierce Drive and Main Road. Hermanstad still in Tshwane, leaving the Pretoria CBD. Expect delays on Eskiam Patlele between Vormhagen and the R80. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702 Drive. In a moment, shortly, we're going to be talking about chocolate and what some manufacturers in other parts of the world are doing to deal with the very high prices of cocoa. They're coming up with alternatives, and in some places, consumers are not too happy. A lab-grown chocolate alternative made from fermented sunflower and grape seeds. Yeah, no, it doesn't sound that great either to me. That's what's happening in Germany, according to an article I've just read. But shortly, Professor Frederick Tabbitt, food science expert, joins us. But not before we've heard from you, Tolokela, and asked you any strange, memorable, funny, worrying experiences while in the back of an e-hailing vehicle.
Not an e-hailing one. I'll use a taxi. I remember back when Udo Carosa used to host Sports Talk.
Yes.
I used public transport at the time. And normally in the taxis, like, everybody's quiet so you can be on your phone. But for some reason, I just happened to be in the taxi where the people that were sitting behind me decided the minute I answer my phone, they're going to have a fat conversation. Mind you, I was having a crossing on air.
Yes.
So, like, literally, the more I spoke, the louder the guy behind me got.
Yes.
To the point where Udo even had to say on air, I see we're in a competition with the people in the car with you. So after that, he was just like, let me let you go. But he did understand the fact that I was using public transport and these things could happen. So ever since then, that's why I don't answer the phone in any public situation, because I'm just like, I'm not going to get into a screaming match with someone when I'm trying to relay important information.
So we're going to get a call soon from somebody who's saying, I'm in a taxi minding my own business, and there's this woman in the third row. She's trying to do a sports broadcast while I'm just trying to chill and, think about the day ahead or the day that's just been. Your calls, please, your stories. 11 minutes to 4.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's talk about chocolate. Now, to me, chocolate is one of those foods where you ought to be able to buy your favorite chocolate bar or whatever it is. It might be a roll with little sweets in it. I'm thinking of rollers. I don't even know if they still make them. Rolo. But anyway, you should be able to buy it and eat it with a degree of absolute certainty because you've been eating it for decades, not non-stop, but regularly. And it shouldn't change. There have been issues around size of bars and downsizing, little things being sneaked in by manufacturers. But a much more concerning thing is something I read about during the week. It was a piece in the British newspaper, The Guardian, and it referred to somebody who started a very public campaign around one of the iconic brands in the United States called Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And what this person is saying is when they looked at the ingredients label where there should be cocoa, they found that the candy contained less than 2% cocoa and that there was an introduction of a chocolate-flavored coating that was mainly sugar and vegetable oil. And then a moment ago, I mentioned something, a German brand that's owned by Nestle, recently announcing it was eliminating cocoa altogether from one of its lines, replacing it with something called Cho Viva, which is a lab-grown, quote, chocolate alternative made from fermented sunflower and grape seeds, which I mentioned a moment earlier. Doesn't sound that great. Cocoa certainly sounds better, but cocoa costs a lot. So what can food scientists do? And might it be possible to successfully tweak the cocoa content in chocolate without affecting the taste in any fundamental way? Professor Frederick Tabbitt is a researcher in food science and technology. He's at the Department of Life and Consumer Sciences at UNISA, which is part of the College of Agriculture and Engineering Science. Prof, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. Do you happen to know how widespread is this effort by chocolate companies to say, listen, either the prices have to go sky high if we keep buying cocoa, or we've got to come up with alternatives? Are the scientists hard at work on that?
Hey, good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to your listeners. Yes, scientists are able to mimic cocoa beans in terms of the taste, in terms of the texture and the flavor. So it can be done, but to various degrees.
Okay, so it can be done. When you say to various degrees, how much would that be at the expense of taste? I mean, could we say that over time they'll eventually get it right, or is there something about cocoa that is irreplaceable?
Yeah, the issue is cocoa is becoming expensive, so
Yes.
Manufacturers need to stay in business. So they are busy looking at alternatives that will make business sense for them. So the issue of ingredient substitution or replacement is not a new phenomenon or not a new concept, because we use it in the functional food industry, where you have things like gluten intolerance, and we can mimic flour and
Right.
get big products. So the same is applied to cocoa, but it's mostly in the sense of business. But yes, food scientists are able to mimic both the taste and the texture of cocoa. So if you are not told, then you can't know. Basically, that's why the labeling laws are in place to make sure that people can read and know exactly what they're eating.
So, Prof, take us into the lab. I mean, if I'm looking to mimic the taste of cocoa, do I need to work with products that are closely associated with cocoa? Or can you, for example, I mentioned the German example, sunflower and grapeseed sounds to me like miles away from chocolate. But how does food science work?
Yeah, I mean, food science in the other side of food chemistry. I mean, we can know the composition of certain flavors. What are the chemical components of the flavors? And also you can basically have a cocoa bean, you extract flavors and use flavors instead of using the bean. So for instance, I can get a kilo of cocoa,
Yes.
I can extract the flavor, and then I can use 10 kg of another grain and make a product, and then that would smell exactly like cocoa, and also I can manipulate the texture to get the mouthfeel of cocoa. So yes, it can be done.
It's interesting that you describe the mouthfeel, because it's an interesting concept, and you point to something that taste is made up of a number of sensations. I know I've read particularly about mouthfeel in regard to savory snacks like crisps and so on. But how does a scientist or a group of food scientists know they're on the right track? I mean, do you have groups of people that come in and you run tests by them? Do they have to prove that they qualify as chocolate addicts?
Yes, we do have machines to start off with. We do have texture analyzers. There are machines that you can measure the exact cocoa and also do your formulation so that the machine can measure the same parameters that you're looking for. And then you know that in terms of technology, I'm sorted. And then now you need to introduce the flavor. And then now you bring the sensory panel, which would be people who are expert in doing that. They've been trained, obviously, and then from there you can actually pinpoint what the consumer are expecting and deliver that.
The cocoa price increases, just to share this with our listeners, Prof, and then get your comments. I mean, the price at one point was around $2,000 to $3,000 a ton. It's now $12,000 a ton. So it's absolutely stratospheric, the rise. But I wanted to ask you this. I mean, if they successfully, and I'm talking particularly about the producers of mass-produced chocolates, not necessarily the sophisticated stuff that you get out of countries like Belgium and Switzerland, but if they manage to satisfy consumers, this could have severe implications, I would have thought, for cocoa-producing countries on our own continent in West Africa. You know, the high price may lead to a market collapse of some kind, or not?
Yes, John, it's an irony that the cocoa prices are high in the international market or at the level of the manufacturers. But trust me, if you go to West African countries, cocoa prices are as low as you can imagine. And I think these are due to marketing factors that are related to political issues. But I don't think it's the issue of production. There's enough cocoa beans that can be produced. There's no major outbreak of diseases that are killing the cocoa trees.
Yes.
So I'm sure it's kind of a political thing. And probably the producers of the cocoa beans are thinking that maybe we can manufacture it and export finished product to you guys. And those guys are saying, no, but we can't do that. We want raw material. So the same thing for oil, the same thing for minerals. So I think it's the same game that is going on here. So it's not a real issue of cocoa bean shortages.
Well, just for perspective on that, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana lead global cocoa production. I think they supply around 60% of the world's cocoa, and Nigeria and Cameroon play a part in those markets as well. Fascinating stuff. Thank you, Professor Frederick Tabit. He is a researcher in food science and technology. He is at the University of South Africa, part of the College of Agriculture and Engineering Science. Yeah, it's intriguing, hey? I mean, has anyone noticed any subtle little shifts in the tastes of the chocolates that you like? I'm getting a few nods in the studio here. I stick to sort of 2 or 3 chocolates, and I haven't really noticed any kind of shift. But yeah, let's keep an eye out. And keep an eye out especially for this chocolate alternative made from fermented sunflower and grape seeds. I think we want to watch out for that fairly carefully. Although, I mean, what I'm hearing, food science, we're probably eating all sorts of things already that have come out of the creative efforts and chemistry efforts of food scientists already that we don't even know about. If you're a food scientist, by the way, and you want to weigh in, chip in, please do on 072-702-1702.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, let's get the very latest traffic. This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Get all-inclusive fares, your seat, your meal, and your baggage. It's all in. Book at flysaa.com.
Sure, John, thanks. In Brakpan, roadwork still causing more than a 20-minute delay. This is on the N17 eastbound from Randall to Carnival City in Springs. Traffic also heavily backed up on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue. Bursley, Kempton Park, slow-moving traffic. Morafontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooi Rivier in the city of Tshwane. There's an accident seen in Centurion on the N1 southbound near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, slowing down traffic. Irene. Also, traffic is a bit sluggish approaching the intersection of Nalmepius Drive and Main Road, while in Hermanstad. Also expect some delays on Eskiam Patlele between Vomhagen and the R80. For the latest traffic updates, follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
On the go and your stomach suddenly not keeping up, that burn, bloating or reflux could be symptoms of an ulcer. Stress can make it feel even worse. Ulcerneck offers triple action relief by coating your stomach lining with a protective layer and works for up to 6 hours. No prescription needed. Choose between suspension, tablets or effervescent tablets. Keep an eye on the shelf for Ulcerneck's new packaging. A fresh new look outside, same trusted relief on the inside. Visit the Ulcerneck Facebook page for more.
Looking to upgrade your office furniture this year? Desk & Chair, the direct office furniture manufacturer, has a deal you don't want to miss. Get 5% cash back towards your existing office furniture with all purchases over 350,000 Rand. Contact Desk & Chair now for more info. Visit our newly renovated showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk & Chair. Think, feel, work better. T's and C's apply.
Gamers, this one's for you. Unlock
Lightning fast home connectivity and get your Vodacom 5G home router with 400 gigs and 20 megabits per second download speed for just $749 per month over 36 months. Plug and play instantly. Plus, get a Nintendo Switch 2 worth $12,449. Game online, stream, connect, all in one deal. Exclusive to Vodacom World. Limited stock. Visit us today. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
This is EWN.
Shibiri afraid to name a mysterious alleged crime kingpin, and family and friends gather to pay their respects to Musiwa Leguata. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Suspended head of organised crime Richard Shibiri has told the Madlanga Commission there is a name of a suspected crime kingpin that he cannot reveal publicly due to safety concerns. Over the past 3 days, Shibiri has been testifying about his alleged links to the criminal underworld and allegations that he is on the payroll of some kingpins. Tabiso Koba reports.
Yesterday, the Madlanga Commission played a recording of a call between Richard Shibiri and Witness A. Witness A is a police officer under the organised crime units. The recording of the call they played at the commission was edited to remove a part where Shibiri mentions the name of a suspected crime kingpin. Shibiri made the request, saying it's a safety issue.
It becomes a problem when you arm somebody who you know he knows you in and out, or even your own family can be known to them. So the danger is not about me.
Shibiri says he's prepared to share the name privately with the commission. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Members of Parliament's Committee on Defence say they are disturbed by images of soldiers conducting house searches instead of preventing illegal mining in Gauteng. They've raised more questions about the deployment of the South African National Defence Force to help police fight serious and violent crime. The concerns come just days after soldiers and police raided homes in Eldorado Park, Rivoli, Sophiatown as well as Westbury. Babalondenze reports.
Members of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence say they are confused by the letter of deployment and whether it includes Operation Prosper from 2019. The Defence Force said earlier that the current crime intervention plan builds on previous deployments, including Operation Prosper in the Western Cape, where the SANDF worked with the police. But committee member Chris Hutting says what is more disturbing for him is how the SANDF has been utilised.
We've heard about the presidential letter, and we've seen very disturbing video clips of SANDF members deployed in Gauteng doing house searches in the past week, far away from any illegal mining. I would like to get an explanation for that.
The Defence Force says their role is to support the police, and there are structures in place to ensure proper communication channels. It says further deployments in other provinces are expected in the next 2 weeks. Babalondenza, Eyewitness News.
Former NPA head Vusi Pikoli has admitted that several cases linked to apartheid-era crimes were not meaningfully pursued due to resistance against prosecutions. Pikoli cited his efforts to proceed with the Frank Chikane attempted poisoning case as evidence of the challenges in holding perpetrators accountable. Pikoli has been testifying before the Ramaphosa Commission, which is looking into delays in prosecuting cases referred by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He told the inquiry today that one of his earliest attempts to pursue accountability after taking office in 2005 was the prosecution of former apartheid officials, including former Minister Police Adrian Vlok. Pikoli says prosecutors opted for a plea agreement to secure a conviction amid intense opposition.
I would have preferred a full trial, but given all the resistance that we were going through, I still felt that look, if you go ahead to be able to achieve a conviction, it is to be on record that there are senior ranking officials, including a minister, who were actually convicted of apartheid atrocities.
A police escort has accompanied the body of late COPE leader Musiwa Leguata to the St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church for a family prayer. Leguata passed away at a hospital in Johannesburg last week after a short illness. Alfara Mushwana is in Bloemfontein.
With sadness written across their faces, the wife and children of struggle stalwart Musiwa Leguata entered the funeral parlor to collect his mortal remains. A portrait of Leguata taken during his younger years stood at the entrance, with his wife Cynthia gazing at it as she slowly walked into the building. Outside, community members looked on as the family arrived, while other relatives waited quietly as the immediate family began the difficult task of viewing his mortal remains. The family is now at the St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church for a prayer service ahead of his burial tomorrow. His funeral service is expected to begin at around 8 o'clock in the morning, followed by a burial ceremony not far from his home. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News in Bloemfontein.
And in Serbia, government has temporarily cut fuel taxes by 20%. The move comes as countries continue to grapple with surging oil prices driven by the war in the Middle East. Serbia's energy ministry says the temporary move will stay in place while it continues monitoring the situation. Oil prices have rocketed above $100 a barrel for the first time since Russia's invasion of the Ukraine in 2022, as Iran vows to attack oil resources in the Middle East. Gold is trading at $5,089.48 an ounce. The rand is at 16.75 to the dollar, 22.30 to the pound, 19.24 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $100.26 a barrel.
Brakpan roadworks still causing about a 20-minute delay on the N17 eastbound from Randall to Carnival City Springs. Traffic remains heavily backed up on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue.
In your sport, Mamelodi Sundowns prepare for Stade Malien challenge in the CAF Champions League. Arne Slot not concerned about the Premier League's quality following a difficult week for English clubs in the UEFA Champions League. And George Russell leads Mercedes 1-2 in Chinese Grand Prix sprint qualifying.
A cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow with scattered showers in the afternoon. Johannesburg drops to overnight lows of 13 degrees, peaking at 24. Pretoria 14 and 25, and Vereeniging also at lows of 14 and a high of 25 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: suspended head of organised crime Richard Shibiri has told the Madlanga Commission that there is a name of a suspected crime kingpin he cannot reveal publicly due to safety concerns.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Pearlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
702 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 4, and it's great to have you with us on the show. Coming up over the next half an hour or so, major breakthrough, it would seem, with the court appearance of a kingpin involved in the rhino horn trafficking trade. This is something that has massive implications for South Africa. Obviously, the killing of rhinos, the damage to our reputation as a country, as a haven for the absolute natural wonders of the African continent. We'll hear more about who's been arrested and why this really could be a breakthrough. Julian Rademacher, he's an analyst on the world of organized crime and has written extensively on the subject. He's with us shortly on that. And then we're going to focus our attention on an area that I must admit I didn't know very much about. It is the narrowing of the sea between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It's called the Strait of Hormuz. And we're going to find out what it's like to actually sail through this narrow point. At one point, the navigable section of it is just 6 kilometers wide, enough for 2 ships and a 2 kilometer wide lane between them. But 20% of the world's oil passes through there, and our major supplier, Saudi Arabia, is absolutely paralyzed at the moment by the fact that the strait is closed. So what does it look like, and what is it like to sail through? the Strait of Hormuz. We'll talk to somebody who's done exactly that. Nick Sloan, Captain Nick Sloan, joins us from Lloyd's at about 20 minutes past 4. We spoke a little bit about how food scientists are starting to tweak with chocolate bars. I don't know if that would mean it's true of the one you particularly like, but it's happening in other parts of the world already as global cocoa prices rocket to highs. The price has shot up by something like 400% over the last couple of years. A few of you had comments on that. We did ask you about unusual things that might have happened to you in the back of either a Bolt vehicle or an Uber.
Hey John, not only do they still make Rolo, they make a Rolo slab of chocolate, which is quite delightful. Have some. Treat yourself. Right here from Joburg.
Hey, afternoon 702 listeners, and hi John, how are you doing? John, my experience with an e-hailing driver, I waited for him maybe for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and when he rocked up, he came with his girlfriend in the same car. Then I cancelled the trip, but I got charged anyway for cancelling the trip, but I couldn't actually comment that he's got his girlfriend on the app because he was actually going to be maybe taken out of the Uber shifts, or that's what happened to me. The guy rocked up with his girlfriend.
It's such an interesting thing and thanks for that story, the point you make at the end, because I've been unhappy at times with the service I've achieved, and I do find myself weighing up, well, do you really want to put somebody's career at risk? And the only exception I make is if they've been driving dangerously, or if the vehicle, has a seatbelt that doesn't work or something like that, because I think there's a kind of wider responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen to other people. But I get it. It's a dilemma. It's 13 minutes past 4.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
That Rhino poaching story in a moment, but first let's just update you on the very latest news from out on the roads. Brakpan has been jammed from early on, even allowing for the earlier rush hour of a Friday. Let's find out what's going on out in Gauteng. This EWN traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. See just how far you can go with them. Book at flysaa.com. Now, Karabo Charlie.
EWN traffic.
Well, at this stage, Brakpan roadworks causing about a 20-minute delay. This is approaching Carnival City on the N17 eastbound. In Springs, traffic also heavily backed up on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue. In Bursley, Kempton Park, there's slow-moving traffic on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooi Rivier, while in Centurion, there's that accident scene N1 South near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, causing heavy delays all the way from Buerta Avenue. There's also slow-moving traffic in Irene. This is approaching the intersection of Nelmapiers Drive and Main Road. Hermanstad, leaving the Pretoria CBD, there's heavy delays on Eskiam Pahlele between Wormhagen and the R80. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Well, let's focus on this story. So much focus on organized crime through, for example, the Madlanga Commission. But one story we haven't covered for a while is the ongoing problem of rhino poaching, which is itself connected to syndicates that are involved in other crimes as well. We understand that the Hawks have made a major arrest, somebody they've been looking for over a decade. The kingpin of a particular syndicate, Michael Chu, was arrested in Heidelberg and appeared in a court in Kempton Park today. So who is he, and to what extent is this a breakthrough that might make over time a real difference? Let's talk to someone then who's analyzed this, researched this extensively, and written many interesting articles and indeed books about the rhino poaching scourge. Julian Rademacher, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time. Michael Chu, why does his arrest matter? Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me, John. Yes, it's a very significant development. In many ways, this is a story that's been 20 years in the making. Michael Chu, his real name is Chu Dang Qua, is a very wealthy Vietnamese businessman. He comes from a very influential and connected family who are involved in the petrochemical industry. They own more than 100 wholesale companies selling petrol. They're involved in shipping. They own shipping containers. They're also involved in a huge wind power project in Vietnam with around $680 million US. But Chu also in South Africa is notorious as the individual, the first Vietnamese national to hunt a rhino in South Africa legally back in 2006.
Right.
What complicates that, though, is that Chu set in motion what some of your listeners may remember as pseudo-hunting. These were hunts that were staged. They had a veneer of legitimacy. Hunters from Vietnam and Thailand would come in, shoot rhinos themselves, or professional hunters would shoot the animals. They would export the trophies, the horns, as personal hunting trophies in line with the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. But they would then sell those horns or give them away to partners in the black market trade, something that is not allowed. And that allowed, this type of pseudo-hunting activity to ferment and grow. What makes Chu particularly unique is that he moved from that and his initial arrest in South Africa in 2011. He was subsequently fined. This was for illegal possession of rhino horns, and he was reportedly then deported. But what he did do then was he invested in a game farm in Northwest Province, a farm called Strait,
right,
which he bought for around 7.5 million rand. And he tried to set up a legal business. So farming rhinos, farming tigers, farming lions, providing animals to Vietnamese game parks was one element of that. But there has also been swirling rumors around that farm that essentially it was a slaughterhouse.
Right.
There's evidence that tigers were killed. There were at one stage 50 tigers. Many of them were killed off, then replaced. Bones and skins and other body parts were exported. Some of those tiger products were boiled down into what's known as tiger cake. It's sort of amber-looking mulch of tiger bone and fat and various other things for trade. There are also allegations that some of the rhinos on the farm were allegedly poached. So the people at the farm, the manager of the farm, reported poaching of rhinos. Police believe that those poachings were staged and that the farm itself and the people working there were stockpiling those horns and smuggling them out. And so there's been a steady unraveling, various raids over the years. The SPCA carried out a raid in January last year and found appalling conditions in tiger cages. One tiger had gnawed away one of its front paws.
Oh, goodness.
It's truly horrific. There were, in another instance, they found frozen carcasses of tigers and lions. So this is something that's been building for a very long time. The first raid by the hawks on the farm the first raids related to it back in 2012, when some of the people tied to the farm, including family members of Chu, were arrested in Centurion with rhino horns that they'd buried in their garden, around 6 rhino horns. There was another raid in 2019. So this has been gradually building up over time. Chu is politically well connected. There are allegedly ties to the Vietnamese embassy. Some of his employees regularly played golf with embassy officials. They visited this farm. They were taken on sort of so-called safaris in a game vehicle with the Vietnamese flag painted on the side.
Right.
But ultimately, this was a trafficking business. That's what's being alleged as part of this investigation. Chu was arrested in Heidelberg recently.
Yes.
And it's believed he may have been hiding out in South Africa for some time because he is under investigation in Vietnam for a series of financial crimes involving him and his family. Huge personal loans, over 300 million that went missing, back taxes that hadn't been paid, and so on and so forth.
Hugely significant. Thank you, Julian Rademacher, an analyst in the area of organized crime with a particular and incisive focus on where rhino poaching, the killing of lions and the selling of their bones, and some rather graphic comments or descriptions there of tigers also being slaughtered. That case will be back in court on the 20th of March. So in a week's time, we'll cover it and keep you updated on that as soon as it unfolds. 21 minutes past 4.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Let's focus our attention now on what I think it's fair to say is an area of the world that really is not one I've paid a great deal of attention to, although when it has come up, I've always been intrigued by the fact that 20% of the world's oil needs to move through a narrow piece of water that joins the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, and then, of course, that way connects the ships carrying oil to the wider waters, and that in that way gets the oil to every corner on the globe. That is very much in focus now, given the war in and around Iran. So we were intrigued by this and thought it would be really interesting to speak to somebody who's actually sailed that piece of water. At its narrowest, it comes down to about 34 kilometers of width, but in terms of navigable waters, there's about 6 kilometers. So at that point, the Strait of Hormuz, as I understand it, is split into 2 lanes, literally, one, each of them 2 kilometers wide, with a middle lane also 2 kilometers in width, separating the two. My next guest is Captain Nick Sloan. He is Lloyd's Special Casualty Representative and knows the waters well. Captain, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time today. The experience of taking a huge ship through waters like that, what can you tell us about sailing? It's obviously something that needs a high level of skill and a great deal of care.
Yes, so good afternoon, John, and your listeners. Yeah, the Straits of Hormuz obviously is a choke point between the Persian Gulf and then getting out into the Indian Ocean. The northern area, and then of course it's almost like a horseshoe shape piece of water, and it's all controlled on the northern part of the horseshoe and the eastern part by the Iran military bases. Mm-hmm. So strategically it's high risk, and the traffic separation zone is on the Oman side of the international separation zone, but that is literally a couple of 100 meters. And over the last couple of years, the Iranian gunboats, the Islamic Republic and the Republican Guard, have been literally forcing a couple of vessels to come into the Iranian waters where they attached them and have taken them. But since the war, there's reports that they've started to mine those waters. And of course, it's within quite a short distance from the Iranian coast. So if you look at the horseshoe shape, that whole area of the horseshoe is most probably protected with drones, yes, autonomous boats. So it's a really high risk point to go through, especially when they're having in the midst of this war. Right on the north side of the Persian Gulf, the Iran-Iraq border, they attacked two tankers outside Iraq yesterday, set them on fire. And those were the high-speed boats of the Republican Guard. Mm. And, of course, they report that there's a lot of them, I mean hundreds of them, protecting the Iranian coast around the straits. So at the moment, there's no sign of any military escort because even the warships would be at high risk going through that horseshoe-shaped strait. So until they actually identify and neutralize the risks, no more ships are going to go through. They hit a couple yesterday that thought they could get through from Abu Dhabi, and they were told that you got through once but not twice.
Yes.
So it's an extremely high risk part of the world at the moment.
I mean, I'm just looking at that horseshoe shape. I've got a couple of maps in front of me that you've just described, Captain Sloan. And I mean, presumably, particularly at the speed that an oil tanker moves, and I understand, even though the map doesn't quite reflect that the distance involved going through that horseshoe is quite substantial. It's about 160 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, any oil tanker would be a complete sitting duck, and I would assume the narrowness would make it very, very hard to provide an escort because there's not a lot of water to work with.
That's 100% correct. Tankers, wouldn't be doing much more than 7 to 9 knots in that area because of the size of the tankers, and in case something goes wrong, they've got to try and stop before they hit the coast. So you've got a very large, these tankers are three football fields in length, plus, some of them even 4. And there's the same width, so they're 60 meters wide, and they're carrying between 1.2 and 2.4 million barrels of oil. So it's a really slow target, and it's a sitting duck for anyone that wants to take a pot shot. Even vessels doing twice that speed would still be a sitting duck. So, some of the container ships can do over 20 knots, but they're certainly not going to be going through there. So it's a big stalemate. I see Saudi Arabia is diverting a lot of its oil to the Red Sea. Mm-hmm. They've got a port that they've been developing for the last 10 years, I think, for this exact sort of, to release some of the oil. But at the moment they can do 2 to 3 million barrels a day, and they want to increase the daily capacity to 7 million barrels. But that's still a long way off what's meant to go through on a daily basis through the Straits of Hormuz between Oman and Iran.
Yeah, thank you so much. The insights of Captain Nick Sloan joining us from Lloyd's, where he's special casualty representative. His insights into what it takes to move oil through the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, look at it on a map, and his description of it being horseshoe shaped, very vivid indeed. Most of the shoreline falls in Iran, a smaller area in Oman. But it's, as he said, very much a stalemate. 28 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
So this EWN Business is brought to you by Volvo. Experience the best of both worlds with plug-in hybrids. Electric when you want it and fuel when you need it. Stephen Curtis, good afternoon.
Well, John, good afternoon. You've been talking about the Strait of Hormuz. Reuters reporting that an Indian tanker has actually managed to sail through there now. Just that news alone pushing oil prices 4 cents below $100 a barrel. Obviously, it's going to take more than that. And this tanker might get through, but I think at least 4 others have been attacked in that area. And as a result, as you heard Nick Sloan say, no one's going to sort of try and move there very quickly. At the same time, probably the story of the day so far is Sasol finally really getting a jump in its share price because of higher fuel prices. It's taken a little while. They've been up sort of strongly, but today up 8.3%. And I think that's just the understanding that this is going to be with us for a while, I'm afraid. The JSE All Share down 1% at 115,694. John, the JSE is down about 10% since this started. Really is extraordinary. Financials down 0.18, industrials up 0.92, and then resources down nearly 4% on the day. Mainly it's platinum and gold to an extent, much weaker. But Sasol up 8.3%, Tungela up 3.64%. Also an energy stock, and you can see why that would happen. Naspers up 3.5%, Remgro's up 3%. So they said, this is the holding company of Johan Rupert, they said they expect interim earnings to be up by really between sort of 30 and 40%. There's been a sustained improvement in the operations of most of their companies. South 32 is up 2.3%, and AB InBev is up 2%. Optasia results out next week, they're up nearly 2% as well. Implat's down nearly 9%, Northam down nearly 8%, Sibania down nearly 6%, Valterra down 5%, Harmony down 4.89%, the Foschini Group also down 4.5%, and the JSE itself is down 3.25%. Interesting. And then Spar, they had a little resurgence earlier in the week. They're down nearly 3%. In the US, obviously everyone watching the oil price, but Slightly lower oil prices, maybe just helping the indices to open. There were losses in the previous yesterday, but investors sort of looking at various economic data as well. There's GDP numbers coming out of there. The Dow Jones is up 0.45%, the Nasdaq up 2.56%, and the S&P 500 up 0.61%. The gold price, $5,100.52 an ounce. Platinum, $2,076.70. Brent crude, $99.96 a barrel. The rand to the dollar, John, also a big part of this is the weakness in the rand now. 16.80 to the euro, 19.28 to the British pound, 22.29. Stephen Groothuis, EWN Business.
Remember when you had to hurry up and wait, and cars could only run on fossil fuels? Well, hurry up and catch up. You don't need diesel power. You just need a second electric motor. With Volvo plug-in hybrids, you can drive electric in the city, switch to fuel for the long haul, or combine both when you want it all. So what are you waiting for? You're late for your test drive. It's safe to be brave with Volvo.
Right, it's time for the very latest eyewitness news, developments around the deployment of soldiers in various South African communities. And Mbali Dlamini has the details.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa has confirmed the deployment of 2,200 soldiers to help police fight serious crime in various provinces. The president's statement this afternoon comes amid growing questions about the constitutionality of the move. The deployment will target illegal mining and gang-related crime until March the 31st at a cost of over 823 million rand. Earlier this week, SANDF members were seen conducting raids with police in parts of Johannesburg, sparking debate after soldiers entered residential areas in Eldorado Park, Riverlea, Westbury and Sophiatown. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya explains the deployment.
The deployed members of the SANDF will assist the South African Police Service to prevent and combat illegal mining and gangsterism in the provinces of the Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, Northwest and the Western Cape.
DA Joburg mayoral candidate Helen Zille says she is prepared to defend her actions after the city threatened legal action against her. The tussle between the two relates to her visit to a Joburg water reservoir. In a video posted on social media, Zille can be seen entering and inspecting the Yeoville Reservoir, where she pointed out dilapidated infrastructure. The city's infrastructure department has since condemned the visit, accusing Zille of using critical infrastructure for political campaigning. The city says unauthorized access to such sites could compromise the security of water facilities. Speaking to EWN, though, Zille dismissed the criticism, saying there were no signs prohibiting entry and that the site appeared poorly secured.
Well, I would welcome it. I mean, there's no sign that says no entry or no access or anything like that. None at all. The fence is flattened, so I would think that if it was a secure facility, there would be some kind of fence up. But the fence was broken. There was a huge gap in the fence. And the steps leading up to the actual reservoir that is covered at the top the gate wasn't even locked. You just open it, swing it open.
The third suspect linked to the murder of a presidential bodyguard has decided to represent himself in court. Kwanele Kateni appeared in the Ntuzuma Magistrates Court today following his arrest on Wednesday. He is charged with murder and robbery with aggravating circumstances in connection with the death of Sergeant Sanele Dlamini, who was shot and killed in Inanda last year. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
Kwanele Kateni made a brief appearance in the Ntuzuma Magistrates Court today. It's alleged he shot and killed Sergeant Sanele Dlamini, a police officer attached to the Presidential Protection Service, and stole his state-issued firearm. During proceedings today, the accused turned down his right to have a lawyer and told the court that he will represent himself. However, the magistrate advised that he appoints a lawyer due to the seriousness of the case. The case has been postponed to the 20th of March for a formal bail application, and Kateni will be joined in the dock with his two co-accused. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, in Ntuzuma.
And in Serbia, government has temporarily cut fuel taxes by 20%. The move comes as the globe continues to grapple with surging oil prices driven by the war in the Middle East. Serbia's energy ministry says the temporary move will stay in place while it continues monitoring the situation. Oil prices have rocketed above $100 a barrel for the first time since Russia's invasion of the Ukraine in 2022, as Iran vows to attack oil resources in the Middle East. A cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow with scattered showers in the afternoon, lows of between 13 and 14 degrees and highs of between 24 and 25.
Centurion accident scene N1 southbound near the N14 Brakfontein interchange are now causing more than a 30-minute delay. All the way from the R21 Flying Saucer interchange, Irene, traffic remains sluggish approaching the intersection of Namepius Drive and Main Road.
A top story in EWN, President Cyril Ramaphosa has confirmed the deployment of 2,200 soldiers to help police fight serious crime in various provinces.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
The Vodacom United Rugby Championship is one of the hottest tournaments on the planet. Hollywood Bets adds spice with an epic competition in which 400,000 Rand in cash, prizes and betting vouchers must be won. Prizes include a Vodacom URC VIP experience and a glamorous Table Mountain adventure. To enter, simply bet 30 Rand or more on any Vodacom URC fixture between 23 January and 16 May. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Celebrate the power of African storytelling. Join Freedom Park in collaboration with the South African State Theatre for the 13th Ungasali Storytelling Festival on 14 March 2026 at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. Experience powerful performances through poetry, theatre, music and traditional storytelling as we celebrate the voices and stories that shape our heritage. Tickets are available at Web Tickets for 150 Rand. The Ungasali Storytelling Festival, where African stories come alive. Don't miss it.
For over 30 years, Midday Cargo has been keeping South Africa's supply chain moving, giving our economy the dedicated cargo capacity it needs. Whether it's really, really urgent, oversized, or hazardous, when a shipment has to fly, we make it happen. Linking all major airports with reliable freighter services, our promise delivers. Midday Cargo. Every kilo counts.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, John. How is it possible that with all our problems with rhino poaching that they can in South Africa still allow rhino to be hunted? I think that is shocking. I cannot understand how that can be allowed. That must surely stop. Nicholas Florida.
I've had some of the worst experiences, but most of them have been good in an Uber. But one, the driver was just staring at me inappropriately in his rearview mirror. Another one, the guy accelerated when there was a load of traffic in front of us on the highway. Second one, the guy accelerated and almost drove into another house, which is in my estate. And another one is where the guy just decided to drop me off on the side of the road. Strange, I know, and it's not great to be a female, but Uber Black seems to be the better way to go.
Yeah, okay. So give us a call on experiences you have had in e-hailing vehicles, prompted, if you missed it earlier, by our colleague Rifue Litsua, finding herself stranded when the Uber she was traveling in ran out of fuel. 20 minutes to 5.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kelem Ganga, very good afternoon to you. What's happening?
Well, John, Orlando Pirates have an opportunity to open a 3-point gap at the top of the Midday Premiership standings tomorrow. That's with a win over Siwelele. They're currently level on 47 points with Mamelodi Sundowns, with just a solitary goal separating the two. And Adeslam Adu has called for his Buccaneers to give more in their quest to end the Brazilian 7-year championship reign.
You work to improve and to take the best from your players every week. We have some areas that we still need to work, especially the last third. It's not new for us, and we have to continue and to have this resilience to help our boys. But in general, I'm very happy about the character of our team. Even when it's tough, even when you have some days, you can see that the team is still winning.
Igor Tudor insists that Anton Kinski still has a future at Tottenham Hotspur, having been substituted after just 17 minutes in their defeat to Atletico Madrid in the UEFA Champions League. Amid their dismal performance in that game, Tudor was lambasted for not acknowledging Kinski as he walked off the pitch and down the tunnel. And with Spurs fighting relegation in the Premier League, the interim coach has discussed whether he'll return to the starting lineup again this season.
2025, this social media life, became like that is more important what you say than what you do, which I don't condone, But as I said before, this is normal. This is a mistake that will happen. He will be, for sure, in his career, another mistakes. But I think he has a strength and quality in the front of him is a very good career.
Ireland will look to keep their Six Nations hopes alive when they take on Scotland this weekend before leaders France face England in Paris in the final match of this year's tournament. Victory for Andy Farrell's side will seal their fourth Triple Crown in 5 years, along with denying the Scottish their first since 1990.
Dreaming big for something bigger. Of course, you would love to dream like that. Obviously, the rest of it's out of our hands there, but there's something that's in our hands, and we concentrate on our performance first and foremost of trying to win something that's pretty special to us. That's the Triple Crown. It's over the years it's been hard to come by when you're playing for Ireland. So we're desperate to make sure that we get across that.
And Sweden's Mondo Duplantis cleared 6.31 meters at the Mondo Classic indoor meeting to set another pole vault world record and improve his own previous mark by 1 centimeter. The Olympic and world champion had no failed attempts on his way to the record height, as he marked the 15th time he's broken the world record. That's since setting it back in 2020. Tola Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
At 17 minutes to 5, this EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Get all-inclusive fares, your seat, your meal and your baggage. It's all in. Book at flysaa.com. Problems out in Centurion, to add to those we highlighted earlier in Brakpan. Let's get the very latest with Karabo Chale.
Well, at this stage, yes, John, in Centurion, accident seen on the N1 southbound near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, now causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. Irene, traffic sluggish approaching the intersection of Nalmepius Drive and Main Road. Hermanstad leaving the Pretoria CBD, bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on Eskiam Pahlele between Vomhagen and the R80 Tembisa. Also traffic a bit sluggish. This is heading towards Irene on the R21 northbound, approaching Olifantsfontein Road. Brakpan roadworks causing about a 20-minute delay. This is on the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City Springs. Traffic remains heavily backed up. This is on Paul Kruger between Main Reef Road and 4th Avenue. Bursley, Kempton Park area, also slow-moving traffic on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooirivier. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Pearlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
7:02 Drive, it's 4:45. We're not quite done with the week yet. Some of you are still finishing up at work. We've got another hour and a quarter to go, and some of you will actually be working this evening. But I think it's not too early for us to enjoy this sentiment.
It was a Friday, my darling. Was a Friday, umsebenzi ubogile. Was a Friday, my sweetie. Was a Friday, ilanga linkomile wena.
Jaluka with Was a Friday. So the question I wanted to ask all of you, I'll start with my colleagues in the studio, is simply this. What do you do to say to yourself, it's the weekend, it's Friday evening, and I'm kind of done? I mean, there's always stuff to do on a Saturday and a Sunday, but do you have a little Friday ritual that you use to kind of put a peg in the ground and say, it's my time now? How about you, Rufue?
John, I'll be very honest. So my body whispers to me,
Yes.
why are you waking up? It's a Friday, girl. Right?
Oh, in the morning?
In the morning already.
Oh, my
body's,
goodness.
I can feel there's a vibe. And then even my music is different. So when I'm showering, I'm playing some new kind of music. And I've already planned, 6 o'clock, I run fast. I'm going out. I'm going to go do something that I want to do on Friday.
Yeah.
So my body's already saying, go, girl. You don't have to go to work. But then because I'm an adult, I do it.
And there's a new Uber category, by the way. There's Uber X, there's Uber Black, but there's also Uber with petrol that comes as an optional extra.
Soon,
but it
John.
costs more.
I will say
more.
too soon.
Okay. How about you, Karabo Charlie, Fridays? What says to you or the Charlie household it's Friday?
So I've noticed Friday mornings when I do my school run, there's less traffic. So I'm always in a happier mood. And there's no cooking on Fridays. So we call it Spikos Friday. So we eat whatever is in the house, bread, eggs, achar, all the junk we can find. And then it's my son's favorite day of the week because he gets to sleep whenever he wants to. There's no sleep time.
Ah, okay. So you can stay up late.
Yeah.
Tola Kelly Mganga, Fridays?
It's so funny how Karabo talks about like Spikos Friday. When you live alone, that's just like every day. So I don't know about that one. The main thing is, for some reason, I always play like 90s hip hop really, really, really loudly as I'm leaving the complex.
Yes.
As if to say, okay, everybody's done. And then I sleep at 9 on a Friday night because like my body is just like, that's it. We've done all we can. It's time to properly rest.
And she wears casual.
Okay. Yes.
And wears what?
Thing.
Casual. She doesn't wear all formal like a school teacher.
So John, that's the other thing. Monday to Thursday, I dress like a corporate baddie.
Okay.
And then everybody in the office knows that it's Friday because then I come in my sneakers and my football tops to be like, we're done. No more high heels for me.
So what's really interesting that everybody said is that actually their Friday doesn't begin when they get up. Because for me, my Friday only begins when I walk through the door, unlock the door, close the door, lock the door. It's only when I'm actually home that I actually feel it's Friday. Yeah, not a minute before. So let's hear from you. What for you says it's Friday, it's the weekend, and you've got things that you can look forward to. Call us with that on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. It's 12 minutes to 5.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
I believe that there was a conversation in Lesotho. Some people are saying that they want a certain piece of South Africa. The Boere are saying that they want a Volksstaat. The king of Abatembu says 26% of the South African hinterland is owned by the Abatembu. And that is because people look at South Africa and they think South Africa is just a place where you can just rip it apart and get whatever you want. You better understand this is our home. And we might ultimately lose the battle, but you know what? You're going to get a fight. I can tell you that right now, you are going to get a fight. We might not have the finances. Damn it, you're going to get a fight.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
With Outsurance, saving on your car insurance feels like finding a till with no queue on payday weekend. 27-year-old Lynn saves a mind-blowing 638 Rand on her 2025 Haval Jolian. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
Did you know that you have the power to ensure your daughter is fully protected from cervical cancer when she grows up? Yes, protecting a daughter from cervical cancer is absolutely possible. And all that you need to do is ensure that your daughter gets the HPV vaccine at the age of 9. The HPV vaccine gives your daughter the best possible protection against cervical cancer and can prevent her from becoming part of the statistics. This message is brought to you by the Department of Health.
Mzansi, get ready for millions pouring down this Friday. Powerball and Powerball Plus are bringing a massive 135 million rand in total guaranteed jackpots. Make it rain lots of cash this March by playing Powerball for 93 million rand and Powerball Plus for 42 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app or cell phone banking. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. It's time for us to do something we do every Friday. We call it Randall's One Song. We welcome to the show once again Randall Abrams, who's got an interesting piece of music for us and lots of interesting things to say about the story behind the song. Randall, good afternoon and welcome to you. We're going back a while. We're going to listen to a jazz trumpeter. Tell us who we're listening to and why we ought to know more about Donald Byrd.
Thanks, John. Well, I don't think we've done an instrumental in a while.
Yes.
And Donald Byrd, quite a fascinating career. Similar to Miles Davis, kicked off as a hard bop musician, playing alongside the likes of the Jazz Messengers. Art Blakey was on drums, and then, featured with Thelonious Monk, Sonny Rollins. So very much, a high flyer in that 1950s, 1960s hard bop tradition. But then his music also moved along, and you'll remember in the late 60s, Miles was making albums like In a Silent Way and Bitches Brew.
Right.
And Byrd went on to make kind of jazz fusion albums like Fancy Free, and then worked with the Mazel brothers as producers, Larry and Fonce, initially for a record called Blackbird. And we are listening to a track from another album that they also produced called Stepping Into Tomorrow. And the one thing I was struck by, because but I know Miles's 1970s work really, really well. And Miles's 1970s work, while it is jazz funk, it's a lot more, for want of a better term, exploratory, right? You're not going to easily find a melody that you can, hook your cab onto. You know what I'm saying? That horse bolts and you better hang on tight. Whereas the Donald Byrd version of 1970s jazz funk is, dare I say it, a lot more listenable.
Yes.
And more accessible. But nevertheless, really, really well produced. And the other thing is that, I've said this a million times before, so the listeners are going to get bored of me saying it. But, trying to define music by parameters, the types of parameters that you might find in a record store that say jazz and funk and soul and hip hop, etc., is really, really not that easy, because there's so much that you'll hear in this record that I imagine you could call it yacht rock if there were a vocalist. So it's just so wonderful, as I say, that, musicians, aren't pigeonholing themselves, but are rather playing music that they think is expressive. Obviously, there's a role for the record company as well, saying, well, we'd like you to do something that's a little bit more commercially minded. But again, listening to if you were to listen to Donald Byrd, as I say, in the 50s and Donald Byrd in the 70s, you'd imagine they were two very different musicians.
Yeah, it's interesting the way musicians move as music moves in the world of other creative people around them, create ideas and influences that they tap into. But let's enjoy the sound of Donald Byrd. Sounds of Donald Byrd, wonderful trumpet music there. Randall, you were talking about how his music has changed over time. I mean, I suppose this is a very broad question, either in relation to the artist we've just enjoying or more broadly in music. But I mean, you've had conversations with dozens of musicians. Do they sort of look back on their early days and say, okay, or do they look back on it as the kind of first few steps on a journey of many miles and actually feel quite pleased and proud of where they started, even if they've ended up somewhere different?
A fantastic question, John. I think some of them never want to look back. So Miles,
Yes.
for example, and I've read a lot about Miles Davis, certainly did not ever want to look back. Someone like Abdullah Ibrahim, I've spoken to him many times, and he'd recognize that there were certain things, that were landmarks, but he would be able to differentiate between a critical commercial landmark and what he may see as a landmark, right? Those two may not necessarily be the same. But I think that, musicians are, to a degree, they're also searchers, right?
Right.
They're forever striving for something which they can't really put their finger on. But I think it gets very hard for a musician where they, are always trying to reclaim former glories rather than wanting to develop. The other thing I just wanted to mention about Donald Byrd, if some of the listeners kind of recognize that music but don't know where they've heard it, a lot of those Mazel-produced albums were in fact sampled heavily in the 1990s, heavily and widely in the 1990s, for what was then the acid jazz movement. And the other thing that we mustn't forget about Byrd is that he actually went on to earn a master's degree and then was granted a doctorate. So spent a lot of his time in his latter years in education at universities.
Yeah, interesting artist and some really interesting music. Thank you. Randall Abrams joins us every Friday at around this time, roughly 10 to 5, if you want to make a note to yourself. We call it Randall's One Song, and not only does Randall pick a piece of music, but picks through that piece of music, its origins, and shares with us interesting facts about the artists. So Randall back with us at the same time next Friday. Still to come on the show, a closer look at what the South African National Defence Force might be doing now that all the legal I's have been dotted and the legal T's crossed. You never know, of course, in South Africa, somebody may take something to court, but the president has done all the signing off that he needs to do. We'll talk to Pikkie Greef from the South African National Defence Union. We'll also get an update from Mongezi Koko, who's got the latest news on this particular development. Later in the show, our regular Friday feature, we call it A Song, a Book and a Dish. We're going to be joined by a radio legend whose history goes very far back with this radio station, 702. Stan Katz joining me at 20 to 6. It's 5 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Soldiers will remain on the ground until March 31st, and a crime intelligence officer wants to testify behind closed doors. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. President Cyril Ramaphosa has confirmed the deployment of 2,200 soldiers to help police fight serious crime in various provinces. The president's statement this afternoon comes amid growing questions about the constitutionality of the move. The deployment will target illegal mining and gang-related crime until March 31st at a cost of over 823 million rand. Earlier this week, SANDF members were seen conducting raids with police in parts of Johannesburg, sparking debate after soldiers entered residential areas in Eldorado Park, Riverlea, Westbury and Sophia Town. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya.
The deployed members of the SANDF will assist the South African Police Service to prevent and combat illegal mining and gangsterism in the provinces of the Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, Northwest and the Western Cape.
A crime intelligence officer who deals with agents and informants has asked for his testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry to be heard behind closed doors and his voice distorted. The officer, referred to as Witness G, has made an application to testify in camera, citing security reasons. Witness G's lawyer, Tshepo Matlala, says the publication of his client's identity also risks putting the people around him who are not agents or informants in danger.
For instance, somebody who has witnessed our client with a particular informer, there could be conclusions drawn correctly or incorrectly that the particular individuals that may have been seen with the witness were acting in a capacity of, being informers and the like.
Evidence leader Matthew Chalskinson says he agrees Witness G cannot be visually identified, but he says the Commission does not have voice-altering software.
It's not clear to me that he will be identifiable by voice. And so it seems to me that the request for off-screen testimony that will nonetheless be streamed, but not with any visuals, is one which we would support, but we wouldn't go beyond that.
While a ruling on the in-camera application will be made at a later date. Former NPA head Vusi Pikoli has admitted that several cases linked to apartheid-era crimes were not meaningfully pursued due to resistance against prosecutions. Pikoli cited his efforts to proceed with the Frank Chikane attempted poisoning case as evidence of the challenges in holding perpetrators accountable. Pikoli has been testifying before the Ramaphosa Commission, which is looking into delays in prosecuting cases referred by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He told the inquiry that one of his earliest attempts to pursue accountability after taking office was the prosecution of former apartheid officials. Pikoli says prosecutors opted for a plea agreement in order to secure a conviction amid intense opposition.
I would have preferred a full trial, but given all the resistance that we were going through, I still felt that, look, if we go ahead, we'll be able to achieve a conviction. It is to be on record that there are senior ranking officials, including a minister, who were actually convicted of apartheid atrocities.
A standoff between delivery motorbike drivers and the Tshwane Metro Police Department has resulted in more than 20 bikes being impounded. TMPD says the incident unfolded during a routine public transport patrol. Mongezi Koko has more.
Authorities say the situation escalated when a group of around 40 motorbike riders arrived at the scene and blocked the road, attempting to prevent officers from continuing with their inspection. Officers called for backup, and after further checks, officials discovered several of the bikes were not roadworthy or failed to comply with the National Road Traffic Act. Under Tshwane bylaws, delivery motorbikes operating in the city must be roadworthy, properly registered, and riders must be able to produce valid driver's licenses and identification when requested by law enforcement. TMPD says some riders fled the scene before their documents or immigration status could be verified. In total, 23 delivery motorbikes were impounded. Police say any attempts to obstruct law enforcement operations will be dealt with decisively. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
And the UN Migration Agency has confirmed its assistance of some migrants caught up in the Middle East war. The agency is helping the migrants to leave. Since erupting on February the 28th with US-Israeli attacks on Iran, the war has sparked a major oil shock and forced thousands to flee on both sides. Yesterday, the UN Refugee Agency said as many as 3.2 million people had been displaced in Iran. Iran is the largest refugee hosting country globally, and it accounts a large migrant population. Gold is trading at $5,089.49 an ounce. The rand is at 16.67 to the dollar, 22.31 to the pound, 19.23 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $100.23 a barrel.
Bumper-to-bumper traffic in the Centurion area. This is on the N1 southbound between the R21 Flying Saucer interchange and the N14 interchange. This is due to an earlier accident. Irene, traffic remains sluggish approaching the intersection of Nelmapius Drive and Main Road.
In your sport, Mamelodi Sundowns prepare for Stade Malien challenge in the CAF Champions League. Arne Slot not concerned about the Premier League's quality following a difficult week for English clubs in the UEFA Champions League. And George Russell leads Mercedes 1-2 in Chinese Grand Prix sprint qualifying.
A cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow with scattered showers in the afternoon. Johannesburg drops to overnight lows of 13 degrees, peaking at 24. Pretoria 14 and 25, and Vereeniging also at lows of 14 and a high of 25 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa has confirmed the deployment of 2,200 soldiers to help police fight serious crime in various provinces.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Pearlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
702 Drive, it's 8 minutes past 5. Great to have you with us on the show. Coming up over the next hour or so, we're going to be looking at the deployment of the SANDF in 5 provinces around South Africa. We'll take a closer look in a moment. First of all, at the announcement made by the presidency, the legal steps that need to be put in place now appear to be in place. And then we'll look more closely at what the soldiers might actually do. Perky Krief is the Secretary General of the South African National Defence Union, and he's going to be joining us shortly on that. Some developments at the International Court of Justice. 6 countries have submitted what are called declarations of intervention. If they're signatories to the convention that enables all the activities of the International Court of Justice, then they are able to make contributions and submissions. This in regard to South Africa's genocide case against Israel. So submissions in favor and in support of Israel coming in from the United States, Hungary and Fiji, backing the broad points being made by South Africa. Let me frame it that way. Netherlands, Iceland and Namibia. We'll try and bring you some more details on that a little bit later in the show as well. In the second half, our regular feature, Song, a Book and a Dish, will be in the company of radio legend Stan Katz. Looking forward to that conversation. It's 9 minutes past 5.
You're with John Pearlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Good afternoon, John. The comment regarding the e-hailing. So I'm saying that I'll speak on behalf of the drivers. So this is what happened. We have a challenge as drivers of the e-hailing. We have such beautiful looking women that they take advantage. What they do, they come and act as if they forgot their wallets, and later on they want to bribe you with their numbers, exchanging numbers to say, we're going to talk to you later, maybe I can send you the e-wallet, and etc. etc. So that's what we're facing. And what happened is the guys will react based on that, some of the guys, but when they react, because now it's in public, the lady, she didn't pay, they are being seen as people who are bullying women, and that thing is happening for a very long time, and no one is saying anything about it. So that's the weirdest thing that we experience as drivers of e-hailing, Thank you.
Yeah, we've been swapping stories about e-hailing now. There have been quite a few that have been negative about the drivers, but listen to this from ND. I was driving my daughter to school. I had a tire burst. I managed to get her to school as I have run flats. I then requested an Uber from the school as the tire was badly damaged by a pothole. The Uber fetched me. We went to buy a tire. He organized a jack and changed my tire. I will never forget his kindness. And Indy concludes, God bless you, Mehluli, wherever you are. So Mehluli, I hope you're listening. If you are, well done to you. And a wonderful note there from Indy, just, tipping the balance back towards the middle, which is often where the truth lies. 11 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. See just how far you can go with them. Book at flysaa.com. Do it now. Delays out in Centurion, probably in some other places as well. Karabo Chali with the details.
Yeah, so if you're leaving Pretoria heading towards Midrand, accident scene in Centurion, N1 South near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, still causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. Irene, also traffic sluggish approaching the intersection of Namibia's Drive and Main Road. Perlman start, leaving the Pretoria CBD bumper-to-bumper traffic on Eskiam Pahlele between Vormhagen and the R18. In Tembisa, expect some delays. This is driving towards Irene on the R21 northbound. This is approaching Olifantsfontein Road, Boksburg, Brakpan roadwork, still causing about a 20-minute delay. This is on the N17 eastbound between Randall and Carnival City. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
John Pearlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
13 minutes past 5 on 702 Drive then. So we've already seen some troops in various communities, particularly in Gauteng. I think Benoni was the focus of some attention. Westbury in the southwestern part of Johannesburg, further south, Eldorado Park. But now this is all formalized, an announcement that President Cyril Ramaphosa has now confirmed that 2,200 members of the SANDF will be deployed alongside police. Let's get some details of that announcement. Then Mongezi Koko, EWN reporter. Mongezi, a lot of people might have been forgiven for thinking when we saw the troops on the ground, all the legal I's had been dotted and T's crossed. But this is made much clearer now by the president. What exactly has he said? Mongezi Koko, very good afternoon.
A very good afternoon to you, Ndete John. Sorry, I couldn't hear you there. I was struggling with my line.
Okay, I hope we've got you now. Over to you.
Well, I need to break it down so that the listener can understand what exactly this formalization essentially means of the recent deployment. Now, what we understand is that President Cyril Ramaphosa had initially announced the deployment of the SANDF across various provinces in the country to combat illegal mining and gangsterism, but he didn't specifically announce this deployment to pertain to the fight against gangsterism in Gauteng. This then became a point of contention for some parliamentarians, particularly the Police Portfolio Committee chairperson, Ian Cameron, who then raised concerns that Parliament wasn't notified prior to the deployment about the SANDF, then going to residential areas such as Westbury, Sophia Town, Riverlea, and surrounding areas there like Eldorado Park, which is what we saw earlier this week with the SANDF members performing surprise raids at these said properties. Now, of course, afterwards, this is when the president then came out with a statement today, and through the presidency then said that he's invoking Section 201, subsection 2A, which then says that the president has full authority to deploy the military to work in conjunction with police to reduce criminality across the country. And this then means that he doesn't necessarily have to give Parliament prior notice, but instead he can deploy and then explain to Parliament what the cost would be, how long the deployment would last for, and what are the possible implications that will exist in terms of judiciary. Are they capacitated detectives to deal with the cases of those who are found wanting and then subsequently arrested? But what we also saw today through the statement was the extension of the deployment. Now, when the president initially spoke about this during the State of the Nation address, he said that they would be deployed until the end of April. But now we're seeing an extension of around about a year where we're going to see the SANDF troops still on the ground until the end of March next year. So quite a lengthy extension. And then in that same statement, we understand that he then spoke to Parliament. Parliament now understands about this said deployment. But what we also saw in John, when it comes to this major deployment, is that the cost goes exponentially higher, where we're talking about well over 823 million rands to facilitate this said deployment. So, of course, this is going to then pick the brains of those who sit in the Defense Force portfolio and subsequently those who sit in the police portfolio questioning, is this really necessary and how big is this budget? Why is it so large? So those are some of the questions that we can expect the president to then touch on. But what we need to understand now is that the president has moved away from the prior deployment of Operation Prosper. So there was, in 2019, an Operation Prosper, which also saw the deployment of the SANDF members. We saw him invoke the same section in 2020 with the COVID pandemic outbreak, which saw SANDF soldiers still on the ground. So he just made a distinguishment between the two Operation Prospers to say that this one is new, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is when it will end. So a separate operation is what we are seeing, and we're seeing that he followed due process, which means that the president didn't do anything wrong in this case and that he really followed the Constitution by deploying the said soldiers.
Thank you so much. Very comprehensive outline of what the president announced today. Mongezi Koko, EWN reporter, 18 minutes past 5.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Well, let's turn our attention now to developments today in regard to South Africa's case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. News has come in. Today is some kind of deadline, and a number of other countries have filed what are called declarations of intervention. In the matter, the United States participation in this process is attracting, I think, much attention given the state of geopolitics and indeed the state of relations between that country and our own. Also weighing in on the side of Israel, Hungary and Fiji, Namibia, Iceland and Netherlands have made their submissions which speak to the points that South Africa has raised in this matter. In total, 22 countries have sought to join this matter in various ways, amongst them Brazil, Colombia, Bolivia in South America, Libya, and I mentioned Namibia on our own continent. Spain has made their submission as well, as has Turkey, and there are some others as well. But let's get a sense of what the significance of this process is, and in particular the United States getting involved as they have today with an 11-page submission. Dr. Kingsley Makubela is former diplomat and director at Risk Recon. Dr. Makubela, welcome and thanks very much for your time. Declarations of intervention. Does it carry any particular weight, or is it more with the court itself, or is it more a public display of support for one side or another?
Good afternoon, John, and thanks very much. The declaration of the ICJ, it's twofold. I think it's Article 36 and Article 36.2. It speaks about the jurisdiction of the court on the matter under dispute. Once a country makes a declaration, it recognizes the jurisdiction of the ICJ on the matter.
Yes.
It doesn't debate the substantive issues, because remember this question of the ICJ in South Africa. It's still under dispute. There's still to be a ruling in terms of jurisdiction. So countries are intervening now. The United States may be intervening to say, we recognize the ICJ has a jurisdiction over the matter, but we don't think on the merits of issues that this genocide in Israel. I suspect that is what the United States is going to intervene about. But you get other countries that you really spoke about that are intervening and are intervening in support of South Africa. So you're going to get countries that are intervening on both, against or for. They must first recognize the jurisdiction of the ICJ to arbitrate on the matter. So the next stage will be to look at the merit of the issues.
So the United States, I mean, it's an 11-page declaration. I haven't been through all of it, but one quote that is being highlighted to avoid any doubt. The United States affirms in the strongest terms possible that the allegations of genocide against Israel are false. They are also, the U.S. says, unfortunately, nothing new. The Netherlands, their submission, I think, made yesterday, is focusing on a number of issues, including their concerns about the withholding of humanitarian aid. So at what point, Dr. Makubela, do the arguments put forward in these declarations actually make their way into the deliberations? I mean, would this lead to, for example, the court reconsidering what it's already heard? Because I know they're still waiting on Israel's submission, which was due today.
Yeah, you see what the court has done, John. They've opened up the matter for any state to intervene.
Right.
Intervene for or against. So states are intervening. At one stage, the court is going to say, we've accommodated every intervention in this respect. But the fundamental basis, John, is the recognition of the jurisdiction of the court to arbitrate on the matter. The U.S., you can see, I haven't seen their intervention, their letter. You can see they're starting to argue on the merits, and that will be their argument moving forward, to say there are no basis for genocide in Israel, and they'll put up their issues.
Yes.
And I think you're going to find few countries that are intervening on behalf of Israel. It's just like in any other court, you'd get witnesses for and against the complainant. So this is what you're seeing. But the first thing is to recognize the jurisdiction of the court over the matter.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kingsley Makubela, former diplomat, director at Risk Recon, 23 minutes past 5.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, let's return now to the deployment of troops in various South African communities, the two areas of focus so far as we understand it. Gang violence in the Western Cape, particularly on the Cape Flats, also in areas of the Eastern Cape, and then in a number of places, Free State, Northwest, I would assume, and Gauteng, dealing with the consequences, severe as they are, for communities living in areas of illegal mining. Questions are being asked, though, about the role that these soldiers might play. This week we saw boots on the ground in a number of communities. Questions then being asked by residents. Well, they were here yesterday, but they're not here today. I think that was just by way, in the old days of the movies, you had something called trailers. This is the serious business begins, I think, next week. So what might the soldiers contribute? Advocate Puki Greef is National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union. Very good afternoon to you, Puki Greef, and thanks so much for giving us your time. What are your broad thoughts about, A, what we've seen so far, but more crucially, if the soldiers are to make a difference, what has to happen for them to be as effective as they could be? Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to the listeners as well. I think the first thing is that, the role of the soldiers is to basically cooperate with the police. It's basically only police operations and police decisions that get made, and the Defence Force is there to support the police in the execution of their duties. That would be, they do stuff like perimeter protection and so on. But I know that we've seen now in the past few days that they in fact participate in searches on premises and so on, which really, it's a different kind of cooperation. It's actually doing police functions as well together with police, and that raises a couple of questions, of course. In the communities.
So let's get your thoughts on how command structures work, but also support. I mean, we're going to have soldiers working in communities, presumably away from the bases where they normally operate from. We've fallen short, I think it's fair to say, in providing decent support for our soldiers in the past. Do you think all that stuff's in place?
Definitely, it's not in place, John. We can't see that there would be a sudden switch between the deployments that have been taking place the past 3 years, almost continuously in South Africa, by the way, of the SNDF on border patrols and other kinds of operations, including this illegal mining operations. These soldiers keep on complaining about a lack of sustenance, in the sense that usually shortages of rations, shortages of fuel, shortages of gas, and so on. It really makes the deployment very difficult for them. So let's just start there. I think sustaining that deployment is really going to become problematic. I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but this is our experience. And for that to suddenly change, something drastic has to happen, and that change has not occurred. We've seen no evidence of that. So we are very concerned about that, because it influences the morale and the mood of the soldiers on the ground, when they're not properly treated. And I think we should be fair to our soldiers. The other aspect that the soldiers raise regularly is the fact that those police that they are cooperating with, while they're with them as boots on the ground, those policemen get paid overtime. The soldiers don't get paid overtime. And that's it's a cause of friction within the ranks. And people are rightly so dissatisfied about those kinds of, imagine not being properly sustained and you're underpaid.
Thank you so much, Advocate Pukki Greef, National Secretary of the South African National Defence Union. It's 27 minutes now past 5.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, good afternoon to you. We're coming to the end of a turbulent week, I think.
Yeah, very much so, John. And unfortunately, the JSE all share on track to lose, sort of 10% in the last week or so, mainly because of what's been happening in the conflict around Iran. And then really, it's all about oil prices, frankly, which I'm afraid to say are back over $100 a barrel today, despite the fact that one Indian oil tanker was able to get through the Strait of Hormuz. By no means is this going to encourage lots of other people to do the same, simply because it's just still too dangerous. And that's still the major problem. The Courier Guy, the latest South African company to announce that it has to hike prices because a lot of its stuff goes by air. If you're sending something through air, they have to do what the airlines have done and increase their prices. And then, you just have a situation where it's very, very difficult to actually move things. But Sasol, John, really now motoring ahead, up 11.6%. Just remember, they use coal to make fuel. And Thungela as well, up 3.13% on the day. So very interesting just to see that. And I think Sasol really getting some momentum as a result of this now. The ore share down 1.73% on the day. 114,924. I think the high that we've ever had is 127,000. So you really see this decline. Financials down 0.5%. Industrials up 0.75%. Resources down 5.37% on the day, John. And really platinum in particular battling today. So yeah, Sasol up 11.6. Naspers and Process up by around 3.5. Thungela up 3.13. And then Remgro, they're up 2.3% today. It's the holding company really of Johan Rupert. They said they're expecting interim earnings to be up by around a third. There's been a sustained improvement in the operations of most of its companies. AB InBev up 1.85 and Aptasia up 2.25. Yeah, Implats down 11%. Northern down nearly 10. Sibanye down 8. Valterra down 6.78. It goes on and on. The gold companies down 2. Goldfields down 6. Harmony down nearly 5.5. And the Foschini Group down 5.57% on the day. In the US, things slightly positive. A couple of reasons. There's sort of economic data coming through, but the Dow Jones is up 0.45, the Nasdaq is up 0.56, and the S&P is up 0.61. The gold price at the moment is at $5,054.93, so that is lower. Platinum $2,054, and then Brent crude $100.94 a barrel. The rand to the dollar, John, sure, 16.86. I mean, yeah, getting closer and closer to 17. We thought maybe those days were over. To the euro, 19.31. To the British pound, 22.33. On the Money Show tonight, we'll be talking about this and the fact that some of the big fuel suppliers have now said they won't take any more ad hoc orders. So, John, if you ordered 30 litres of petroleum to be delivered at the end of the month, you'll get 30 litres and not a drop more, or 30 million litres and not a drop more. We will be talking about that. We'll be talking as well about retirees who are living actually off borrowing money, and what that must be like. Must be a bit scary. And then don't forget the Friday Biz Blitz. I might include a question about geography that you were discussing earlier. Stephen Curtis. Oh, we'll talk live golf as well. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Lots of good stuff coming your way on 702 between 6 and 8. It's 5:30.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. DA Joburg mayoral candidate Helen Zille says she is prepared to defend her actions after the city threatened legal action against her. The tussle between the two relates to her visit to a Joburg water reservoir. In a video posted online, on social media rather, Zille can be seen entering and inspecting the Yeoville reservoir where she pointed out dilapidated infrastructure. The city's infrastructure department has since condemned the visit, accusing Zille of using critical infrastructure for political campaigning. The city says unauthorized access to such sites could compromise security of water facilities. Speaking to EWN, Zille dismissed the criticism, saying there were no signs prohibiting entry and that the site appeared poorly secured.
Well, I would welcome it. I mean, there's no sign that says no entry or no access or anything like that. None at all. The fence is flattened, so I would think that if it was a secure facility, there would be some kind of fence up. But the fence was broken. There was a huge gap in the fence. And the steps leading up to the actual reservoir that is covered at the top the gate wasn't even locked. You just open it, swing it open.
KZN Premier Taminduli has urged the province's Council Against Crime to come up with strategies to tackle cash-in-transit heists. Nduli says such crimes have become rife, particularly at some identified hotspots. He was addressing a meeting between local government and various law enforcement agencies today. The meeting was called to discuss the alarming crime rate, with cash heists top of the agenda. Just last week, a cash van was attacked on the N2 highway near the cement factory. Nduli says there must be a way to stop these incidents.
It seems as if the criminals have identified that spot as an easy spot to conduct this kind of crime. What are the plans then of government of ensuring that there is a visibility of the police there, or there is a way of securing that area?
And the third suspect linked to the murder of a presidential bodyguard has decided to represent himself in court. Kwanele Kateni appeared in the Nduzuma Magistrates Court today following his arrest on Wednesday. He is charged with murder and robbery with aggravating circumstances in connection with the death of Sanela Dlamini, who was shot and killed in Inanda last year. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
Kwanele Kateni made a brief appearance in the Nduzuma Magistrates Court today. It's alleged he shot and killed Sergeant Sanela Dlamini, a police officer attached to the Presidential Protection Service, and stole his state-issued firearm. During proceedings today, the accused turned down his right to have a lawyer and told the court that he will represent himself. However, the magistrate advised that he appoints a lawyer due to the seriousness of the case. The case has been postponed to the 20th of March for a formal bail application, and Kateni will be joined in the dock with his two co-accused. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, in Nduzuma.
A cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with scattered showers in the afternoon, lows of between 13 and 14 degrees and highs of between 24 and 25.
Centurion, we're still dealing with that accident scene N1 South near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, causing more than a 30-minute delay. All the way from the R21 Flying Saucer interchange, Brakpan, also about a 20-minute delay due to roadworks on the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City.
The top story in EWN, DA Joburg mayoral candidate Helen Ziller says she is prepared to defend her actions after the city threatened legal action against her.
Mzansi, get ready for millions pouring down this Friday. Powerball and Powerball Plus are bringing a massive 135 million rand in total guaranteed jackpots. Make it rain lots of cash this March by playing Powerball for 93 million rand and Powerball Plus for 42 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app or cell phone banking. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old to play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Are corporate strategy sessions, family commitments, and fitness pursuits draining you? Stay on top of your game with the world's #1 nutritional supplement drink, Ensure Gold. With HMB and triple protein, it provides 20 essential vitamins and minerals and is clinically proven to boost energy, build muscle, and support immunity. Why settle when you can go for gold? Get the daily strength you need from Ensure Gold. Available at all leading supermarkets and pharmacies. Ensure, the strength experts.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
For Mamotati and Kensani of Design News, a beautiful room starts with a rock-solid connection. Tell us what was slowing down your growth.
It would have to be slow network coverage.
Now, Telkom Business Fiber lets the team process large renders while the landline keeps supplier calls coming in.
Get Call Light Fiber from 655 Rand per month and unlimited VoIP 1 from 99 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Some holidays give you the beach. Some give you the bush.
What if one destination gave you both? This July, a world-first travel experience arrives in KZN with the opening of Club Med South Africa Beach and Safari Resort. To celebrate, 702 and Club Med South Africa are giving you the chance to win an all-inclusive beach getaway for two worth 70,000 Rand. Are you ready to experience the ultimate escape with Club Med? Tune in to 702 Afternoons with Relebohile Mabocha, weekdays between 1 and 3 p.m. to find out how to enter Club Med South Africa Beach and Safari Resort on 702. T's and C's and more on primemeterplus.com.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
23 minutes to 6 coming up. A song, a book and a dish with radio legend Stan Katz. Looking forward to that. Right now, time for sport.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele, a very good afternoon to you. Sundowns, Champions League, big match.
Absolutely, John, and they'll switch their attention to their competition this evening as they take on Stade Malien in the first leg of the quarterfinals. Miguel Cardoso has complained about the PSL not easing their fixture schedule amid their prolonged run in this competition, but he says that can't be excuse for them to drop their standards.
We don't look for excuses. There's nothing on that. So my attitude and my statement it's just a statement. Nothing on feeling that the odds are whatever. No. The odds, they just exist when the whistle starts. And that is where it starts, everything. And then is where the players have to prove themselves, and the coaches try to be wiser to help the players, nothing more. The players of Sundowns, they are used to also work under adverse conditions, and they are used to give answers.
In the Bedway Premiership, Orlando Pirates can move 3 points clear at the top with the win over Suwelele tomorrow, while Kaizer Chiefs can end their 3-game losing run with victory over Durban City on Sunday. Amakosi Vice-Captain Zita Kwinika has emphasized the importance of getting back to winning ways as they look to finish in a CAF qualification position.
No, I think it is a realistic target for us. There's still 12 games to play. Us getting maximum points in a whole lot of games can give us an opportunity to get back where we want to be, which is meeting our target that we set for the season. So it's realistic, and I think it's a minimum for us, to be honest. If we can't reach that, then it makes things difficult for us. So I think that's where we're heading, and the focus is just that, taking a game as it comes.
In the Premier League, selected games will see Liverpool at home to relegation fighting Tottenham Hotspur. Arsenal host Everton, while Manchester City take on West Ham. Pep Guardiola says the citizens can no longer afford to drop points in the title race, with the Gunners now 7 points clear at the top.
Play the game you have to play, and after the game will dictate you have chance or not. So it's difficult, yeah. Not much dollars on the bank, bad for us, I would say. So we'll see on Tuesday. Now it's West Ham. That still I define the Premier Leagues, like it was the league, as the most difficult title. So the Premier League always, I believe, is the most difficult one, and still we are there, knowing that if we drop points, we'll be over.
And Scotland will be looking for a first win in 12 meetings against Ireland when they clash in the Six Nations this weekend. The Scots' 50-40 win over France has put them in contention for a first championship since 1999, and victory at the Millennium Stadium would edge them closer to ending that drought. However, Gregor Townsend's side need a favour from neighbours England. That's by beating Le Bleu in Paris tomorrow night.
We don't talk about it. We talk about the opportunity to play a game, to build on what we've been doing, not just in that 80 minutes against France, but throughout the championship and throughout our trainings. Like we had 2 excellent weeks going into the Italy game. The players have backed that up, and that can give you confidence too. Like if you come off the back of a training session, knowing that you're aligned, you're connected. Some of the moments in training that we've seen have been exceptional. Then that's what you can focus on, and the rest should take care of itself.
Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Problems in Centurion. Karabo Charlie has the details.
Yeah, that's if you are heading towards Midrand. There's an accident scene in Centurion, N1 South near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, and now causing more than an hour delay all the way from the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. So avoid that route at all costs if you are heading towards Joburg, rather use the R21 southbound via Tembisa. Hopefully that will save you some time. Irene, expect about a 20-minute delay approaching the intersection of Nelmapiers Drive and Main Road. And in Brakpan, we still have those roadworks causing about a 20-minute delay on the N17 eastbound between Rondebolt and Carnival City. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You know that feeling when your child submits their project before the deadline? That's how good it feels to see the Outsurance pointsmen on your route. Less stress in traffic knowing they are on the roads. The Outsurance pointsmen have been easing the traffic congestion so everyone gets where they need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In proud partnership with 702. Show them some love online using hashtag pointsmenlove. Licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
What are some of the outputs or rather conclusions that you came out with from this invisible CV experiment?
It was funny watching all the reactions after the recruiters realized that both CVs were from the same person. I think recruiters really responded quite positively to the human qualities that were highlighted and emphasized in the CVs, more than the technical abilities. And if you think again about the workplace and the organizations of today, given the noise that is happening in the world right now, it is really those soft skills that are building workplaces and making sure that the people and the employees that actually make the workplace are quite resilient.
Kawegazim Dikane, Momentum's Executive Head of Brand.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Celebrate the power of African storytelling. Join Freedom Park in collaboration with the South African State Theatre for the 13th Ungasali Storytelling Festival on 14 March 2026 at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. Experience powerful performances through poetry, theatre, music and traditional storytelling as we celebrate the voices and stories that shape our heritage. Tickets are available at Web Tickets for 150 Rand. The Ungasali Storytelling Festival, where African stories come alive. Don't miss it.
Need a seat? Try 7 or 5. It's your call. Want a sunroof? Make it a panoramic. Gotta have power? How does award-winning 138 kilowatt sound? The Changan CS75 Pro is big enough for the kids, smart enough for your playlist, and stylish enough for your Friday night too. Why settle when you can have it all without compromise? The Changan CS75 Pro. Drive tomorrow's SUV today. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more.
Changan, driven to evolve.
Zandi Finga's Hive promo agency was growing fast, but the paperwork was catching up. What were you up against?
Challenges that were slowing down my growth was finding clients as well as organizing the promoter application.
But with Yep for online visibility and Zoho to manage her database, she has turned chaos into a well-honeyed hive.
Get Yep by Telkom Business from 249 Rand per month and Zoho from only 1,260 Rand annually. Call 10213 or check telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a nervous but excited first-time driver waiting for the perfect gap to switch lanes. I can do this. The pressure. The Outsurance pointsman know it's not just a car in traffic. It's a sense of freedom and independence on the move. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
702 Drive with John Pearlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
A book and a dish.
On 702.
Yeah, it is that time of the week. We look forward to it all week on a Friday. We do what we call a song, a book, and a dish. We invite somebody who you know very well, but you don't know everything about them. We get them to pick a song, choose a book that has been an influence on their lives, and to choose a dish, but also perhaps talk about meals and people they got to know while eating their favorite food. My guest today has done virtually every job imaginable in the radio industry. We have celebrated his contribution in a book we've talked about quite a bit over the last couple of weeks on 702. It is, by the way, called The Story of 702, In Touch, In Tune and Independent. And Stan Katz plays a very prominent part in that book, as indeed he has played in the life of our station. Starting off as a voice and a man playing music for you on the station, rising to the position of managing director of 702, particularly when the station made the transition from a music station to what we have now, a talk radio station that reaches out to all of you. Stan Katz, welcome. It's great to have you with us on the show.
Thank you very much, John. I'm honored to be here.
I have to start off with the place where you were born and grew up, Mahikeng. And I'm wondering, with your life and your love of music, what kind of music was playing in the Katz home as you were going through the gears in Mahikeng Primary and then moving all the way to Mahikeng Secondary? Was music a big feature of life at home?
It was indeed. My mother had one classical record. It was Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody.
Okay.
When I was 6 years old, my brother was 16, and he was on the scene. So this was around 1955. Rock and roll was just starting.
Right.
So he was listening to Elvis Presley, Little Richard, Frankie Lyman, Bill Haley and the Comets. And so from a very young age, I was exposed to rock and roll music, and it shaped my taste for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some people might have heard Hungarian Rhapsody and heard rap and totally misunderstood what was actually playing. Stan, I mean, did you have family gramophone battles? I know in my own home, also in the age of vinyl, once my parents got home, we didn't really get a look in. How did your brother manage to get so much time on and spin the discs?
My parents weren't that into music apart from that one song.
Okay.
So he had unfettered access to the gramophone. It was one of these big radiogram things. I don't know if you remember them.
Yes. Piece of furniture.
A piece of furniture, exactly. I used to lie underneath the gramophone because that's where the speakers were, and listen to music that way.
Stan, so at what point in your head is the idea of you having not just a life in music as a listener and somebody absorbing the absolute wonders of what music can conjure up as you hear it for the first time? At what point are you thinking, I could do this in some way?
John, to be honest, I wanted to be a guitarist.
Okay.
I didn't want to be a leader. I wanted to be a lead guitarist in a rock band.
Yes.
And I came to the conclusion very soon that I didn't have the talent to make a career of it. It was the quickest way one could find to start. So I got into radio because I wanted to be close to music. And I thought this would be an ideal way to do that without risking starvation. and that's how I got into radio. And I'll just tell you a quick story. I managed to get an interview on Swazi Radio, which was the predecessor to 702. And I walked in, and bucolic and open-mouthed, I poured forth the torrent of my inspiration.
Yes.
And informed them that I wanted to be a disc jockey. There were 3 people interviewing me in the interview, and I said I want to be a disc jockey. They said, we're not looking for disc jockeys. What do you know about programming? To which I replied, if you tell me what programming is, I'll tell you what I know about it. And the interview was over. They said, thanks for thinking of us. Thanks for coming to see us.
Yes.
I just saw my life flash before my eyes. I realized I would have to pull something out of the hat. And fortunately, I had done a BCom because my parents wanted me to have something to fall back on. So I said, I've got to be calm.
Yes.
And they employed me as an administrative assistant, which is a very fancy title for office boy.
Yes.
But
you were
it
through
wasn't
the
what
door.
I had in mind, but
Yeah.
I was through the door, man. It's, as you know, it's a very much a closed shop radio, but as you put it, I was through the door.
So Stan, you talked about you didn't want to starve. Let's talk food, because we do a song, a book, and a dish. We asked you for a dish, spaghetti bolognese, but you conveyed a general love of Italian food. So if we go to the Katz dinner table, and there's your elder brother Colin, who's providing the music, and there's Max as well, and there's your dad Nick and your mom Lily. What are you eating? But much more interestingly, what are you talking about?
I don't remember. Mostly what I was talking about was my parents chiding me for my behavior.
Okay.
And why I wasn't behaving myself, and why they were getting notifications from the school about my behavior. So that took up quite a bit of the dinner table conversation.
And in terms of food, I mean,
it was pretty much meat and potatoes, nothing fancy. I think my father ate meat 3 times a day at that stage.
Okay.
And I know what they say about it not being healthy. He lived to the age of 93. So, but then again, meat in those days wasn't laden with chemicals and etc. So I don't know.
Yeah,
probably a good thing.
Yeah,
when you asked me what my favorite food was, I was going to say fish finger sandwiches.
Yes,
but then I thought I'd rather tell the truth.
Okay, well, fish finger sandwiches and bolognese, I can see it all on the same plate. We're back with Stan Katz in a moment, a song, a book, and a dish. But I know some of you are making your way home. Let's get you through the traffic at 7 minutes to 6.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Get all-inclusive fares, your seat, your meal, and your baggage. It's all in. Book at flysaa.com. Karabo Charlie.
Centurion, we're still dealing with that accident scene N1 South near the N14 Brakfontein interchange, now causing more than an hour delay all the way from the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. There's also an accident scene in Linksfield on the N3 southbound before the Gilulis interchange, causing huge delays. And in Bursley, Kempton Park, slow-moving traffic on Modderfontein Road between Pretoria Road and Mooi Rivier. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X, that's at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Pearlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
A song, a book, and a dish.
On 702.
We're back with Stan Katz. Stan, your extensive career took you from being behind the microphone to making sure that we could actually pay for the microphones and the studios, managing director at 702, as I mentioned, eventually becoming CEO of Prime Media Broadcasting. And the book you've chosen for us is about business, I suppose, and it's an old one. It's called Think and Grow Rich. I believe it's a book that came out in 1937. Your fascination with business, was that from being the son of an entrepreneur, or did it come from something else?
John, I was always interested in business. I did a BCom. Not because I was interested in business at the time, but I'd joined my brother in a company selling sales training and motivation courses. And one of the courses that I came across was based on Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich.
Right.
And that gave me the courage and the impetus to actually attempt to pursue my dream. There was one phrase in that book which I repeat to myself at least twice a day. Anything my mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. In other words, thoughts are things. Everything begins with a thought. And if you believe it and you can conceive it, you can achieve it. And it's been a guiding principle my entire life.
It's a great phrase. Stan, finally, and I wish we had more time, but I bet you wished you had more songs you can choose, but you picked this one out of all the songs that you might have chosen. Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. Did you put a few names on a dartboard and throw a dart, or did you pick this one for a special reason?
I picked it for a special reason. First of all, it encompasses everything that is rock and roll: the rebellion,
yes,
the rhythm, the beat, the drive, and it's evocative. The imagery is just so powerful, and I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan anyway. This one goes back to 1976, and anytime anybody asks me for my favorite song, I think of this one without hesitation.
Yeah, and it's served you for 50 years, Stan Katz.
Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your song, your book, and your dish. After 5 decades, still his favorite song, Bruce Springsteen.
Just wrap your legs around these velvet rims and strap your hands across my engines. Together we could break this trap. We'll run till we drop. Baby, we'll never go back. Oh, you walk with me out on the wild. 'Cause baby, I'm just a scared and lonely rider. But I gotta know how it feels. I wanna know if love is wild, babe. I wanna know if love is real. Oh, on the show.
702 Drive this week, put together by Jonathan Fairburn, Rifue Litsua, and Londiwe Ngubane. Our technical producers this week, Karabo Malapile and Peter Mashabane. I'm John Pearlman. Have yourselves a fabulous Friday and a Saturday to follow, and a great Sunday too. We're back with you on Monday. Good night.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporates and Investment Banking, proud sponsors of GTR Africa 2026, enabling trade flows for growth. Absa is a registered FSP. Good evening. On your Friday Money Show this evening, major fuel suppliers tell their bigger customers they can't add to their usual orders for petrol and diesel as oil prices refuse to fall below $100 a barrel and the conflict around Iran continues. Why well-off retirees are suddenly having to borrow money to survive, and we'll start to get you into the mood for the Live Golf ahead of next week's big festival at Stain City. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening. I'm Maki Malapo. The Select Committee on Security and Justice says it has noted with appreciation the speedy deployment of the South African National Defence Force to communities. The committee says it's noted their visibility on the ground a few weeks after President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement in his State of the Nation address. The committee's statement comes after Ramaphosa also praised the Defence Force yesterday and the initial impact it's made in communities in Gauteng. Babala Ndenza has more.